Hey there, settle in. Let's face it, the Wild West has been romanticized to death. Cowboys swaggering, saloons packed with perfectly coiffed gamblers, and chuck wagons overflowing with, well, what exactly? Tonight we're ditching the dime novels and diving headfirst into the gritty reality. We're not looking at legends, we're sniffing out the truth, one rancid bite at a time. If you're ready to trade campfire tales for cold, hard facts, give that like button a tap. Now, close your eyes. Congratulations, you've just woken up. The taste in your mouth is awful. Metallic, stale, and clinging to the back of your throat like a stubborn debt collector. You peel your eyelids open and the world swims into focus. A hazy brown canvas punctuated by the rough-hewn timbers of something. It's dim, lit only by flickering lamplight that throws grotesque shadows dancing across the walls. You're lying on a cot. A thin, straw-filled mattress does little to cushion the hard-packed earth beneath it. The air is thick with the smells of sweat, unwashed bodies, wood smoke, and something vaguely off, like meat that's been left in the sun a bit too long. Disorientation claws at you. Where are you? How did you get here? A groan escapes your lips, and a raspy voice cuts through the fog. Mornin', greenhorn. Figured you'd be sleeping till noon. You turn your head, wincing at the protest from your stiff neck. A grizzled face peers down at you, etched with lines that tell tales of sun, wind, and hardship. His eyes, though bloodshot, are sharp, assessing. He's wearing a faded, patched-up shirt and what looks like the remnants of denim trousers. He's missing a few teeth. Where am I? You manage to croak, your voice cracking. He chuckles. A dry, humorless sound. Where you are is lucky to be alive. You're in the bunkhouse, son. Outside of, well, let's just say civilization for now. You took a nasty spill off that bronc yesterday. Cracked your head good. Bronc? You remember fragments, dust, the roar of the crowd, the sickening lurch, then blackness. Bronc riding? You mumble, trying to piece it together. Trying to. More like. You ain't no cowboy, that's for sure. But you got grit, I'll give you that. Most city slickers would have run screaming back to their mamas. He spits a stream of tobacco juice into a nearby spittoon, the sound strangely loud in the cramped space. Name's Jed. I run this establishment. Such as it is. He gestures around the bunkhouse with a calloused hand. What's yours? You tell him your name, and he nods slowly. All right, your name. Best get yourself up and moving. Breakfast will be served in a bit. Don't expect much. This ain't no fancy hotel. Jed shuffles out of the bunkhouse, leaving you to your own devices. You swing your legs over the side of the cot and sit up, the world tilting precariously. You take a deep breath, trying to quell the nausea that's building in your stomach. You need to get your bearings. You need to figure out what's going on. And, judging by the gnawing emptiness in your belly, you need to find some breakfast. You stand, a little unsteady, and take your first tentative steps into the Wild West. The bunkhouse is even more depressing up close. The walls are bare, the wood rough and splintered. There's a single grimy window that offers a sliver of light, illuminating dust motes dancing in the stagnant air. Your clothes, the ones you were wearing, wherever you were before, are folded, more like crumpled, at the foot of the cot. They look wrong. Too clean, too modern, jeans that haven't seen a day of hard labor. A t-shirt that probably costs more than Jed makes in a week. You feel like an imposter, a tourist who stumbled onto the wrong stage. You pull on your clothes, the denim feeling stiff and unfamiliar. As you're buttoning your shirt, you notice a small leather-bound journal tucked into your pocket. It's worn, the edges frayed, and the clasp is broken. Curious, you open it. The pages are filled with your handwriting, but it's different. More florid, more confident. The ink is faded, the paper yellowed with age. The entries are a jumble of observations, sketches, and recipes. You flip through it, your brow furrowing. There are detailed drawings of various cuts of meat, descriptions of herbs and spices, and recipes for things you've never even heard of. Sonofabich stew. Slumgullion? What in the... One entry catches your eye. It's dated several weeks prior, according to the journal's internal calendar. The chuck wagon is a rolling disaster. Cookie's idea of seasoning is salt, pepper, and whatever he can scrape off the bottom of the pot. The men are starving for decent food. I've managed to convince Jed to let me experiment. Tonight, we attempt beans and belly. I've bartered for some molasses from the trading post. Hopefully, it will mask the unique flavor of the salt pork. Cookie? Chuckwagon? It's all starting to feel less like a bad dream and more like something else. Something planned. Something orchestrated. You slam the journal shut, a wave of unease washing over you. You need answers. And right now, the best place to start seems to be breakfast. You step out of the bunkhouse and into the harsh glare of the morning sun. The air is dry and dusty, the landscape stretching out before you in a monotonous expanse of brown. In the distance, you can see a cluster of buildings, a saloon, a general store, and what looks like a blacksmith shop. This is it. This is your Wild West. And it's a far cry from the romanticized images you've seen in movies. The smell of food, however unappetizing, pulls you forward. You follow your nose towards a large, open-air structure with a smoking fire pit at one end. This must be the mess hall, or whatever passes for it in this godforsaken place. As you approach, you see a group of men gathered around rough-hewn tables, shoveling food into their mouths with a grim determination. They're a motley crew, cowboys, miners, drifters, all united by their hunger and their apparent acceptance of whatever slop is being served. A burly man with a greasy apron and a permanent scowl is ladling food from a massive iron pot. This must be Cookie. He looks like he's seen it all, and judging by the state of his apron, he probably has. You join the line, your stomach churning with anticipation and dread. When it's your turn, Cookie slaps a heaping spoonful of something vaguely brown and lumpy onto a tin plate. "Eat up, greenhorn," he grunts, not making eye contact. "And don't complain. It's better than what the buzzards get." You take your plate and find a seat at one of the tables. The food in front of you is unidentifiable. It looks like a stew of some kind, but the ingredients are a mystery. There are chunks of meat, or what you hope is meat, some mushy vegetables, and a thick, greasy gravy. The smell is pungent, a combination of rancid fat, stale spices, and something vaguely earthy. You take a tentative bite. The taste is even worse than the smell. The meat is tough and sinewy. The vegetables are overcooked and tasteless, and the gravy is overwhelmingly salty. You chew slowly, trying to identify the individual flavors, but it's a lost cause. It's just bad, unspeakably, soul-crushingly bad. You force yourself to swallow, your throat burning. You look around at the other men who are eating with gusto, seemingly oblivious to the awfulness of the food. Are they just used to it, or are they so hungry that they'll eat anything? You take another bite, trying to adopt their stoic indifference. You tell yourself it's just food. It's fuel. You need it to survive. But it's no use. Your stomach rebels. You can feel the bile rising in your throat. You manage to choke down a few more bites, but then you can't take it anymore. You push the plate away, your appetite completely gone. A man sitting across from you, a wiry cowboy with a handlebar mustache, notices your distress. "Trouble with your grub, son?" he asks, his eyes twinkling with amusement. You nod, unable to speak. "First time eating Cookie's cooking, huh?" he says with a chuckle. "Takes some getting used to." He ain't exactly known for his culinary skills. What is this?" you manage to ask, your voice hoarse. He shrugs. "Could be anything. Beef, pork, maybe some prairie dog if he's feeling adventurous. And whatever vegetables he can find. Mostly beans and potatoes, I reckon. And the gravy?" He grins. "That's the secret ingredient. Nobody knows what's in it. Some say it's made from old bacon grease and flour. Others say it's got a bit of everything in it. Coffee grounds, tobacco juice, even a little bit of dirt." Cookie ain't tellin'. You stare at the plate, your stomach churning again. You can't believe these men eat this stuff every day. "How do they survive? So what do you usually eat?" you ask, trying to change the subject. The cowboy shrugs again. "Whatever we can get. Beef is the staple, of course, but it ain't always easy to come by. Sometimes we have to make do with salt, pork, beans, and hardtack." "Hardtack?" "Yeah, it's a kind of biscuit made from flour and water. It's hard as a rock and tastes like, well, it tastes like nothing, but it'll fill you up." He pauses, taking a swig from his tin cup. "You know, back east they got all kinds of fancy food. Oysters, lobster, cakes, pies. I hear tell they even got ice cream." He sighs wistfully, "But out here, we gotta make do with what we got. It ain't pretty, but it'll keep you alive." You nod slowly, realizing the harsh reality of life in the Wild West. It's not just about gunfights and saloons. It's about survival. It's about enduring hardship day after day. And it's about eating whatever you can get your hands on, even if it tastes like something the dog wouldn't touch. You push your plate even further away, your appetite replaced by a newfound respect for these men and their ability to survive in this unforgiving land. You might not be a cowboy, but you're starting to understand what it takes to be one. And right now, that means finding something else to eat. Maybe you can forage for some berries, or try to catch a rabbit. Anything would be better than another bite of Cookie's mystery stew. You stand up, your legs feeling a little steadier now. The nausea has subsided, replaced by a dull ache in your head and a gnawing hunger in your stomach. You need to find Jed. You need to ask him some questions, and you need to figure out how to get out of this bizarre situation. As you walk away from the mess hall, you notice something lying on the ground near the fire pit. It's a small metal object, partially buried in the dirt. Curious, you bend down, pick it up. It's a spoon, a tarnished, dented spoon. But it's not just any spoon. It's engraved with a single word: hope. You stare at the spoon, a strange feeling washing over you. Hope. It's a fragile thing, especially in a place like this. But it's also essential. Without hope, what do you have? You slip the spoon into your pocket, a small reminder that even in the darkest of times, there's always a glimmer of light. And maybe, just maybe, you can find your way back to wherever you came from. You turn and walk towards the saloon, determined to find some answers. The Wild West might be a harsh and unforgiving place, but you're not going to let it break you. You're going to survive, and you're going to find out what's going on, one bite or unbitten bite at a time. The saloon looms before you, a beacon of potential information, and hopefully something stronger than that putrid coffee they were serving with breakfast. The swinging doors are worn and scarred, testament to countless entries and exits, arguments and celebrations. The air hums with a low thrum of activity, a mixture of voices, piano music, and the clinking of glasses. You hesitate for a moment, taking a deep breath. This is it. This is where you start to unravel the mystery. You push open the doors and step inside. The saloon is dimly lit, the air thick with smoke and the smell of whiskey. The room is crowded with men, cowboys, miners, gamblers, all huddled around tables or leaning against the bar. The piano player is hammering out a lively tune, his fingers flying across the keys. A haze of cigarette smoke hangs in the air, obscuring the details of the room. You scan the crowd, looking for Jed. He's not immediately visible. You take a step further into the saloon, your eyes adjusting to the dim light. A gruff voice cuts through the noise. Well, look what the cat dragged in. The greenhorn's back for more. You turn to see a man leaning against the bar, a sneer on his face. He's tall and broad-shouldered, with a thick mustache and piercing blue eyes. He's wearing a worn leather vest and a pair of holstered revolvers. He looks like trouble. "You got something to say, mister?" you ask, trying to sound confident. He chuckles. "Just observing. You didn't seem to enjoy Cookie's cooking much. Most folks around here are grateful for whatever they can get." "I'm not most folks," you reply, your voice hardening, "and I'm not afraid to speak my mind." He raises an eyebrow. "Is that so? Well, I admire your spirit. But you'd best be careful. This ain't no place for tenderfoots with big mouths." "I can handle myself," you say, your hand instinctively moving towards your side. You quickly realize you're unarmed. "Great." He laughs again, a harsh, grating sound. "Maybe, but you're out of your depth here, son. You don't belong in this world." "And what world is that?" you ask, your curiosity piqued. He hesitates for a moment, his eyes narrowing. "That's none of your concern. Just stick to your own business, and you might live to see another sunrise." He turns away, dismissing you with a wave of his hand. You watch him go, your mind racing. Who is this guy? And what does he know? You decide to ignore him for now, and focus on finding Jed. You push your way through the crowd, dodging elbows and sidestepping drunken cowboys. You finally spot him sitting at a table in the corner, nursing a glass of whiskey. You approach the table and pull up a chair. Jed looks up, his eyes bleary. "Well, look who it is. Feeling better? Your name?" he asks, his voice slurred. "Not really," you reply. "I have a lot of questions." Jed sighs. "I figured you would." "All right, ask away. But don't expect any easy answers." "Where am I?" you ask, cutting to the chase. "Really? What is this place?" Jed takes a long swig of his whiskey. "You're in Redemption, son. A town like any other, trying to scratch a living out of this unforgiving land. But it's not just any other town, is it, Jed? You press. I don't belong here. My clothes, my everything. And that journal, it's like I'm living someone else's life. Jed's eyes flicker with something unreadable. The journal, you found it, huh? Well, that's just a way to keep track of things. Helps you remember what you need to do. Out here, memory can be a fickle thing. Remember what I need to do? You repeat, incredulous. What is that supposed to mean? Jed avoids your gaze, taking another swig of his whiskey. Just survive. That's all that matters. Survive and don't ask too many questions. But I need to know, you insist. How did I get here? What's going on? Jed slams his glass down on the table, his patience clearly wearing thin. Look, I don't know all the answers, all right? I just run this place. I don't ask questions. And I don't get involved in other people's business. That's how I survive. But you must know something, you plead. Anything. Jed hesitates for a moment, his face etched with conflict. He looks around the saloon, as if afraid of being overheard. He leans in close, his voice dropping to a whisper. There are things going on in this town that you don't want to know about. Powerful people. People who don't like questions. Just trust me, your name. The less you know, the better. But that's not good enough, you protest. I can't just blindly accept this. I need to understand. Jed shakes his head. You're making a mistake, son. A big one. Just let it go. Try to fit in, and for God's sake, stay out of trouble. He pushes back his chair and stands up. I gotta go. I got things to do. He turns and walks away, leaving you sitting alone at the table, your head spinning. You're no closer to understanding what's going on. In fact, you're more confused than ever. You take a deep breath, trying to calm your racing thoughts. You need a plan. You need to figure out who you can trust. And you need to find a way to get some answers, even if it means putting yourself in danger. You decide to start by exploring the town. Maybe you can find some clues, some hints that will help you piece together the puzzle. You stand up and walk out of the saloon, stepping back into the harsh light of the afternoon sun. The street is bustling with activity. Cowboys are riding horses, miners are hauling supplies, and merchants are hawking their wares. You wander down the street, taking in the sights and sounds. You pass the general store, a dusty and cluttered building filled with everything from canned goods to mining equipment. You glance inside, your eyes scanning the shelves. Something catches your eye. It's a small wooden box tucked away in a corner. The box is intricately carved with a design you recognize from the journal, a stylized image of a chuck wagon. You feel a surge of excitement. This could be it. This could be the clue you've been looking for. You walk into the store, your heart pounding in your chest. A wizened old man with a handlebar mustache is standing behind the counter. Can I help you, son? He asks, his eyes narrowed. I'm just looking around, you reply, trying to sound casual. You wander over to the corner where you saw the box. You pick it up and examine it closely. The carving is even more detailed up close. That's a nice box, the old man says, his voice raspy. Hand-carved by a local artisan. One of a kind. How much is it? You ask, your voice trembling slightly. The old man strokes his mustache. That one's not for sale. It's a special order. A special order? You repeat, your hopes sinking. Who ordered it? The old man hesitates for a moment. I'm not at liberty to say. Customer confidentiality, you know? But it's important, you plead. I need to know. The old man shakes his head. Sorry, son, my lips are sealed. You sigh, defeated. You were so close, but you're not ready to give up yet. All right, you say. I understand, but maybe you can tell me something else. Do you know anything about a chuck wagon that used to be in this area? The old man's eyes light up. A chuck wagon? Now that's a story. There used to be a famous chuck wagon that traveled through these parts. It was run by a fella named Cookie. The food was terrible, but the coffee was strong. Do you know what happened to him? You ask, your voice rising with excitement. The old man shrugs. Last I heard, he moved on. Said he was tired of cooking for a bunch of ungrateful cowboys. Went off to find his fortune, or so he claimed. Do you know where he went? The old man shakes his head. Nope, he just disappeared one day. Left everything behind. You sigh again, your hopes fading. It seems like every lead ends in a dead end, but then the old man says something that makes your heart skip a beat. But I do remember something else. He used to keep a journal, a little leather-bound book where he wrote down all his recipes and his thoughts. I wonder whatever happened to that. You freeze, your mind racing. A leather-bound journal. Could it be the same one you found in your pocket? Do you know what the journal looked like? You ask, your voice barely a whisper. The old man nods. Yeah, it was worn and frayed, with a broken clasp. And it had a carving on the cover, a chuck wagon, just like that box. You reach into your pocket and pull out the journal. You hold it out to the old man. Is this it? You ask, your voice trembling. The old man's eyes widen. That's it. That's Cookie's journal. Where did you find this? You hesitate for a moment, unsure of how much to reveal. But you decide to trust him. He seems like he might be able to help you. I found it in my pocket, you say. I don't know how it got there. I don't even know how I got here. The old man stares at you, his eyes filled with disbelief. You don't know how you got here? What are you talking about? You take a deep breath and decide to tell him everything. You tell him about waking up in the bunkhouse, about the journal, about the strange food, and about your conversation with Jed. The old man listens intently, his eyes never leaving your face. When you're finished, he's silent for a long moment. This is unbelievable, he says finally. But I believe you. I've seen stranger things in this town. Can you help me? You ask, your voice pleading. Can you tell me what's going on? The old man nods slowly. I can try, but it's going to be dangerous. There are people in this town who don't want you to know the truth. I'm ready, you say, your voice filled with determination. I need to know. The old man smiles, a grim smile. All right, son, let's get started. But first, let's get you something to eat. I know a place where they serve food that's actually edible. He leads you to the back of the store, pushing aside a curtain to reveal a small, hidden room. The room is sparsely furnished, with a table, a couple of chairs, and a small stove. A woman with kind eyes and a warm smile is standing by the stove, stirring a pot. Martha, this is your name, the old man says. He needs our help. Martha looks at you, her eyes filled with concern. What's wrong, dear? You repeat your story, and Martha listens with the same attentiveness as the old man. When you're finished, she sighs. This is terrible, she says. But I'm not surprised. This town has been cursed for years. Cursed? You ask. What do you mean? Martha shakes her head. It's a long story. But the short version is that redemption was built on a lie. A lie that has poisoned this town from the inside out. She ladles a bowl of stew and hands it to you. The smell is heavenly, a far cry from Cookie's concoction. Eat, she says. You need to keep your strength up. You're gonna need it. You take a bite of the stew, and your eyes widen. It's delicious. A rich, flavorful broth filled with tender vegetables and chunks of meat. This is amazing, you say. What is it? It's just a simple beef stew, Martha replies. But I use fresh ingredients and a little bit of love. You eat in silence for a few minutes, savoring every bite. When you're finished, you feel a little bit stronger, a little bit more hopeful. So, what's the lie? You ask, turning back to the old man. He sighs. The lie is that Redemption is a town of opportunity, a place where anyone can come and make a new life for themselves. But the truth is that Redemption is a town of exploitation, a place where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Who's behind it? You ask. A man named Silas Blackwood, the old man replies. He owns almost everything in this town. The saloon, the mine, the bank. He controls everything. And he's the one who's responsible for all this? You ask, gesturing around the room. The old man nods. He's the one who's keeping the truth hidden. He's the one who's making sure that no one asks too many questions. But why? You ask. What does he gain from all this? Power, Martha says. He wants to control everything. He wants to be the king of Redemption. And he's willing to do anything to achieve that goal, the old man adds. He's ruthless, he's cunning, and he's not afraid to get his hands dirty. So, what do we do, you ask? How do we stop him? The old man sighs. That's the million-dollar question. Blackwood is a powerful man. He has allies everywhere. The sheriff, the judge, even some of the townspeople are in his pocket. But there must be something we can do, you insist. We can't just let him get away with this. The old man nods. You're right. We can't. But we need to be careful. Blackwood is watching us. He knows that we're onto him. How do you know that? You ask. Because he's been sending his men to harass us, Martha says. They've been threatening us, trying to scare us into silence. But we won't be silenced, the old man says, his voice filled with determination. We're going to fight back. We're going to expose Blackwood for what he is. But how, you ask? What's the plan? The old man leans in close, his eyes gleaming. The plan is to use Cookie's journal. It contains evidence of Blackwood's crimes, evidence that could bring him down. But how do we get the journal to the right people, you ask? We can't just walk into the sheriff's office and hand it over. He's in Blackwood's pocket. We need to find someone we can trust, Martha says. Someone who's not afraid of Blackwood. But who? You ask. The old man smiles. I have someone in mind. A woman named Clara. She's a reporter. She works for a newspaper in the next town over. She's honest, she's brave, and she's not afraid to take on powerful people. How do we get in touch with her, you ask? I'll send a message, the old man says. I have a friend who travels between towns. He can deliver it for us. But what if Blackwood finds out? You ask. We'll be careful, Martha says. We'll make sure that no one sees us. And in the meantime, you ask, what do I do? You need to lay low, the old man says. Don't draw attention to yourself. Don't ask too many questions. Just try to blend in. But that's going to be difficult, you say. I don't belong here. People are already suspicious of me. I know, Martha says, but you have to try. For your own safety. And for the safety of this town, the old man adds. Blackwood is destroying Redemption. We need to stop him before it's too late. You nod, your mind racing. This is a lot to take in. You're in a strange town, surrounded by danger, and you're caught in the middle of a power struggle between good and evil. But you're not going to back down. You're going to fight for what's right. You're going to help these people save their town. All right, you say. I'm in. What do I need to do? The old man smiles. First, you need to learn how to blend in. You need to learn how to talk like a cowboy, how to walk like a cowboy, and how to act like a cowboy. And second, Martha says, you need to learn how to protect yourself. Blackwood's men are dangerous. They won't hesitate to hurt you if they think you're a threat. I don't know how to fight, you say. We'll teach you, the old man says. I used to be a gunslinger back in my day. I can show you a few tricks. Your eyes widen. You were a gunslinger? The old man nods. A long time ago. I've put that life behind me. But I still remember a thing or two. All right, you say. Let's do it. Let's learn how to be a cowboy, and let's learn how to fight. The old man smiles. That's the spirit. Let's get started. He leads you out of the room and back into the general store. He grabs a hat and a pair of boots from the shelf. Here, he says. Put these on. You can't go around town looking like a city slicker. You put on the hat and the boots. They feel strange and unfamiliar, but you know that you need to adapt if you're going to survive in this town. Now, the old man says, let's work on your walk. He shows you how to swagger, how to keep your head up, and how to look confident. It feels awkward at first, but you start to get the hang of it. Good, the old man says. Now, let's work on your talk. He teaches you some cowboy slang, some common phrases, and some colorful insults. You try to imitate his accent, but it's difficult. It'll come with time, the old man says. Just keep practicing. You spend the rest of the afternoon learning how to be a cowboy. By the time the sun sets, you feel a little bit more confident, a little bit more prepared. But you know that this is just the beginning. You still have a long way to go. You still need to learn how to fight. And you still need to find a way to expose Silas Blackwood and save Redemption. As you're walking back to the bunkhouse, you notice a figure standing in the shadows. It's the man you saw in the saloon, the one with the piercing blue eyes and the holstered revolvers. He steps out of the shadows and blocks your path. We need to talk, he says, his voice cold and menacing. Your heart pounds in your chest. This is it. This is the moment of truth. What do you want? You ask, trying to sound calm. He smiles, a cruel smile. I want you to leave town. I want you to go back where you came from and forget that you ever saw Redemption. I can't do that, you say. Yes, you can, he says. And you will, or else. Or else what? You ask, your voice trembling slightly. He leans in close, his eyes burning into yours. Or else you'll regret it. You'll regret ever setting foot in this town. He steps back, his hand hovering over his revolver. Think about it, he says, and make the right choice. He turns and walks away, disappearing into the darkness. You stand there for a long moment, your mind racing. You know that he's not bluffing. He's serious. He's willing to do whatever it takes to get you to leave. But you're not going to be intimidated. You're not going to back down. You're going to fight for what's right, even if it means putting your life on the line. You clench your fists, and continue walking towards the bunkhouse. You know that the road ahead is going to be long and difficult, but you're ready for it. You're ready to face whatever challenges lie ahead. You reach the bunkhouse and collapse onto your cot, exhausted. You close your eyes and try to clear your mind. But it's no use. The images keep flashing through your head. The stew, the old man, Martha, the gunslinger, the man in the saloon. You can't sleep. You're too worried, too scared, too excited. You sit up and pull out Cookie's journal. You flip through the pages, looking for something, anything, that might help you. You stop at a page that contains a recipe for courage stew. The recipe calls for a variety of unusual ingredients, including rattlesnake venom, bear meat, and a pinch of hope. You smile. It's a silly recipe, but it gives you an idea. You need to find your own courage stew. You need to find the ingredients that will give you the strength to face whatever challenges lie ahead. You close the journal and put it away. You lie back down on the cot and close your eyes. You're still scared, but you're also determined. You're gonna find your courage stew. You're gonna save redemption. And you're gonna survive, no matter what it takes. Sleep if it dares. You drift into a fitful sleep, haunted by images of dusty streets, menacing figures, and bowls of questionable stew. Dreams of gunfights and chuck wagons swirl around you, punctuated by the lingering taste of rancid bacon grease. You wake with a start. The bunkhouse still shrouded in pre-dawn gloom. The air is cold and damp, and the silence is broken only by the occasional snore from your fellow occupants. You lie still for a moment, trying to shake off the remnants of your nightmare. The events of the previous day flood back to you. The discovery of the journal, the conversation with Jed, the encounter with the gunslinger, the meeting with the old man and Martha. You're no longer just a bewildered tourist. You're a player in a dangerous game. You slip out of bed, careful not to wake anyone. You pull on your clothes, feeling the familiar weight of Cookie's journal in your pocket. You need to find the old man and Martha. You need to start putting their plan into action. You step out of the bunkhouse and into the crisp morning air. The town is still asleep. The street's deserted. You walk towards the general store, your footsteps echoing in the silence. As you approach the store, you notice something out of place. The door is ajar, and the window is shattered. A knot of dread tightens in your stomach. You cautiously approach the door and peek inside. The store is a mess. Shelves are overturned, merchandise is scattered across the floor, and the air is thick with the smell of smoke. Martha? Old man? You whisper, your voice trembling. There's no response. You step inside, your senses on high alert. You move slowly through the wreckage, calling out their names. Hello? Is anyone here? Silence. You reach the back room, the one where Martha made her stew. The curtain is torn, and the room is even more of a mess than the store. The table is overturned, the chairs are broken, and the stove is lying on its side. You spot something lying on the floor. It's a blood-stained cloth. Your heart pounds in your chest. Something terrible has happened here. You kneel down and examine the cloth. The blood is still fresh. You touch it gingerly, your fingers trembling. You stand up, your mind reeling. You need to find them. You need to find out what happened. You rush back out of the store and into the street. You look around frantically, searching for any sign of them. You spot a figure in the distance, walking towards you. It's Jed. You run towards him, your voice filled with panic. Jed, something's happened. The general store. It's been ransacked. Martha and the old man, they're gone. Jed stops, his face etched with concern. What? What are you talking about? You lead him back to the store and show him the damage. He stares at the wreckage, his eyes widening with horror. This is bad, he says, his voice barely a whisper. What do we do? You ask, your voice trembling. We need to find them. Jed takes a deep breath, trying to compose himself. All right, he says. Let's not panic. We need to think clearly. First, we need to find the sheriff. The sheriff is in Blackwood's pocket, you remind him. I know, Jed says, but we have no choice. He's the only law in this town. We need to report this to him, even if he's corrupt. You reluctantly agree. You and Jed walk to the sheriff's office, a small, dilapidated building located near the saloon. The sheriff is a burly man with a handlebar mustache and a lazy eye. He's sitting behind his desk, reading a newspaper. What do you want? He asks without looking up. Sheriff, something terrible has happened, Jed says. The general store, it's been ransacked. Martha and the old man are missing. The sheriff sighs and puts down his newspaper. He looks at you and Jed. His eyes narrowed. What's this about? He asks. You explain what you found at the store. The sheriff listens impassively, his expression unchanging. All right, he says, when you're finished. I'll look into it. Look into it? You repeat, incredulous. That's it? Don't you understand? They're in danger. We need to find them now. The sheriff shrugs. I'll do what I can, but I have other things to worry about. This town ain't exactly a paradise, you know. But this is important. You insist. Their lives could be at stake. The sheriff sighs again. All right. I'll send a couple of deputies to check it out. But don't expect any miracles. People disappear all the time in this town. He waves you away, dismissing you with a flick of his hand. You and Jed leave the sheriff's office. Your heart's filled with despair. He's not going to do anything, you say, your voice trembling. He doesn't care. I know, Jed says, but we can't give up. We need to find them ourselves. But where do we start, you ask? We don't have any clues. Jed thinks for a moment. Maybe we should talk to some of the townspeople. Someone might have seen something. You agree. You and Jed start walking down the street, asking people if they saw anything suspicious. Most people are reluctant to talk. They're afraid of getting involved, but a few are willing to share what they know. A young boy tells you that he saw two men riding away from the general store early this morning. He says they were wearing black hats and carrying rifles. An old woman tells you that she heard shouting coming from the store late last night. She says it sounded like an argument. A saloon girl tells you that she saw Blackwood's men hanging around the store yesterday. She says they were acting suspiciously. You piece together the information, your mind racing. It seems clear that Blackwood is behind this. He must have found out that Martha and the old man were helping you. He must have decided to silence them. We need to confront Blackwood, you say, your voice filled with anger. We need to demand that he release them. Are you crazy? Jed asks. Blackwood will kill us if we confront him. I don't care, you say. We can't just stand by and do nothing. We need to fight back. Jed hesitates for a moment. Then he nods. All right, he says. I'm with you. But we need to be careful. Blackwood is a dangerous man. We need to have a plan. You and Jed start planning your confrontation with Blackwood. You decide to meet him at the saloon, the place where he spends most of his time. You'll demand that he release Martha and the old man. If he refuses, you'll use Cookie's journal to expose his crimes. You know that this is a risky plan, but you're out of options. You need to take a stand. You need to fight for what's right. You and Jed walk towards the saloon. Your heart's pounding in your chests. You're ready to face Blackwood. You're ready to risk everything. As you approach the saloon, you see something that stops you in your tracks. Black smoke is billowing from the building. Flames are licking at the windows. The saloon is on fire. You and Jed run towards the burning building, your minds filled with horror. The townspeople are gathered outside, watching the fire in silence. What happened? You ask, your voice trembling. Someone set the saloon on fire, a man says. No one knows who. You look at Jed, your eyes filled with despair. This is it. This is the end. Blackwood has won. But then you hear something that gives you a glimmer of hope. A woman is screaming, "Help! Help!" They're trapped inside. You look towards the saloon and see a woman standing at a window, waving her arms frantically. She's trapped on the second floor. Without thinking, you rush towards the burning building. You need to save her. You need to do something. Jed tries to stop you, but you push him aside. You run to the front of the saloon and kick down the door. Flames and smoke engulf you. The heat is intense. You cough and choke, struggling to breathe. You stumble through the burning building, searching for the stairs. You find them and start climbing, ignoring the pain in your lungs. You reach the second floor, your vision blurred by smoke. You see the woman standing at the window, her face streaked with tears. "I'm here," you shout. "I'm going to get you out." You run towards her, dodging falling debris. You reach the window and grab her hand. "Come on," you shout. "We need to jump." The woman hesitates, her eyes filled with fear. "I can't," she cries. "I'm too scared." "You have to," you shout. "It's our only chance." You pull her towards the window and push her out. You jump after her, landing on the ground with a thud. You and the woman roll away from the burning building, coughing and gasping for air. You look back and see the saloon collapsing in a heap of flames. You've saved her life. You've done something good, but you know that this is just a small victory. The war is far from over. You look around at the townspeople, their faces filled with awe and gratitude. You're a hero. You've proven that you're not just a greenhorn. You're a force to be reckoned with. But you also know that you've made an enemy of Silas Blackwood. He's gonna come after you. He's gonna try to destroy you. You're ready for him. You're not gonna back down. You're gonna fight for what's right, even if it means sacrificing everything. You help the woman to her feet. She looks at you, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she says. "You saved my life." "What's your name?" you ask. "Clara," she says. "Clara Barton." Clara Barton, the reporter. The one who can expose Blackwood. The one who can help you save redemption. You smile. "It seems like things are finally starting to turn in your favor. I've been expecting you," Clara says, her voice surprisingly steady despite the near-death experience. "I got a message about a journal." You nod, relief washing over you. "Then you know why I'm here. Silas Blackwood has kidnapped Martha and the old man. He knows they were helping me." Clara's eyes harden. "Blackwood, that monster. He's been terrorizing this town for far too long. We need to expose him," you say, pulling Cookie's journal from your pocket. "This journal contains evidence of his crimes, but we need to get it to the authorities. Someone Blackwood doesn't control." Clara takes the journal, her fingers tracing the worn leather. "I can help with that. I have contacts in the territorial government. They'll listen to me." "But what about Martha and the old man?" you ask, your voice filled with concern. "We can't just leave them in Blackwood's clutches." "We won't," Clara says, her eyes gleaming with determination. "We'll rescue them, but we need a plan. Blackwood will be expecting us." Jed, who has been standing silently by, speaks up. "I know Blackwood's operation. He keeps a lot of the less savory things going on, out at the old Blackwood mine. It's outside of town. Pretty remote. That's where he'll have taken them." "The mine," Clara repeats, her brow furrowing. "That place is heavily guarded. It'll be suicide to try and storm it." "We don't have a choice," you say. "We can't just let them die." Clara sighs. "You're right, but we need to be smart about this. We need to find a way to get inside without being seen." You think for a moment, trying to come up with a plan. Then, you remember something the old man told you? He said Blackwood used to be a gunslinger, you say. "He must have some old contacts, some people he trusts. Maybe we can use that to our advantage." Clara nods. "That's a good idea. I know a few people who might be able to help us. Outcasts, drifters, men who owe Blackwood a debt or harbor a grudge. Where can we find them?" You ask. "There's a small settlement a few miles outside of town," Clara says. "It's called Dust Devil Gulch. It's a haven for criminals and misfits. If anyone knows how to get into Blackwood's mine, it's them. Then that's where we're going," you say, your voice filled with determination. "We need to find these outcasts and convince them to help us." "It's going to be dangerous," Jed warns. "Those people are not to be trusted." "We don't have a choice," you say. "We need their help. And we're willing to take the risk." Clara nods. "All right, let's go. But we need to be prepared. We'll need weapons, supplies, and a good story." You and Clara and Jed gather what little you have. You manage to salvage a couple of revolvers from the burned-out saloon, along with a few boxes of ammunition. Clara knows where to find some basic provisions: dried meat, hardtack, and a canteen of water. As you're preparing to leave, Clara stops you. "There's something else you need to know. Blackwood has a daughter. Her name is Eliza. She's different. She doesn't agree with her father's methods. She might be willing to help us." "How do we find her?" you ask. "She lives in town, in a small house near the church," Clara says. "But be careful. Blackwood keeps a close watch on her. If he finds out she's been talking to us, he'll kill her." You nod, your mind racing. This is getting more complicated by the minute, but you're not going to let anything stop you. You, Clara, and Jed set off for Dust Devil Gulch, your faces set with determination. The road is long and dusty, and the sun beats down mercilessly. But you keep going, driven by the hope of rescuing Martha and the old man and bringing Silas Blackwood to justice. As you travel, Clara tells you more about Blackwood and his empire. She explains how he controls the town through fear and intimidation. She tells you about the corruption, the exploitation, and the violence that plagues redemption. You listen intently, your anger growing with each passing mile. You realize that this is more than just a rescue mission. This is a fight for the soul of redemption. You finally reach Dust Devil Gulch. a ramshackle collection of tents and shacks huddled in a desolate canyon. The air is thick with dust and the smell of stale whiskey. You enter the settlement cautiously, your hand resting on your revolver. The inhabitants of Dust Devil Gulch are a motley crew, grizzled prospectors, scarred outlaws, and desperate refugees. They stare at you with suspicion and hostility. You approach a group of men playing cards in front of a saloon. "We're looking for someone who can help us get into Blackwood's mine," you say. The men laugh, their eyes filled with mockery. "Blackwood's mine? You're crazy if you think anyone here would help you with that." "We're willing to pay," you say, pulling out a handful of coins. The men's eyes light up. "How much?" You show them all the money you have. The men exchange glances. "All right," one of them says. "We know someone who might be able to help you. His name is Zeke. He used to work at the mine. He knows all the secret passages and hidden tunnels." "Where can we find him?" you ask. "He's usually at the saloon," the man says. "But be warned, Zeke is a dangerous man. He's not to be trusted." You thank the men and head towards the saloon, your heart pounding in your chest. You're one step closer to rescuing Martha and the old man. You enter the saloon, a dark and dingy establishment filled with smoke and the sound of drunken laughter. You scan the room, searching for Zeke. You spot a man sitting alone at a table in the corner. He's tall and thin, with a gaunt face and haunted eyes. He's nursing a glass of whiskey. You approach the table cautiously. "Are you Zeke?" you ask. The man looks up, his eyes narrowing. "Who's asking?" "We need your help," you say. "We need to get into Blackwood's mine." Zeke laughs, a dry, humorless sound. "You're wasting your time. No one can get into that mine without Blackwood knowing about it." "We know you used to work there," you say. "We know you know the secret passages." Zeke hesitates for a moment. Then he nods. "All right, I know the mine, but I'm not going back there. Not for anything. We're willing to pay you," you say, pulling out the remaining coins. Zeke looks at the coins, his eyes filled with greed. "That's not enough. I need more than that." "What do you want?" you ask. "I want revenge," Zeke says, his voice filled with hatred. "Blackwood ruined my life. He stole my land, he killed my family. I want him to pay." "We can help you with that," you say. "We're going to expose Blackwood's crimes. We're going to bring him to justice." Zeke stares at you, his eyes searching your face. "Do you really mean that?" "We do," you say. "We're not going to let Blackwood get away with this." Zeke smiles, a slow, chilling smile. "All right, I'll help you. But you need to understand something. This is going to be dangerous. Blackwood is a powerful man. He'll stop at nothing to protect his empire." "We're ready," you say. "We're not afraid." Zeke nods. "Good. Then let's get started." Zeke explains the layout of the mine, pointing out the secret passages and hidden tunnels. He tells you about the guards, the traps, and the security measures. You listen intently, memorizing every detail. You know that your lives depend on it. After several hours of planning, you're finally ready. You, Clara, Jed, and Zeke set off for Blackwood's mine, your hearts pounding in your chests. The mine is located in a desolate canyon, surrounded by towering cliffs and barren hills. The entrance is guarded by a heavily armed contingent of Blackwood's men. Zeke leads you to a hidden passage, a narrow crevice in the rock face that leads to a secret tunnel. You squeeze through the crevice and enter the tunnel, your bodies pressed against the cold, damp stone. The tunnel is dark and narrow, and the air is thick with dust. You move slowly and cautiously, your senses on high alert. After several minutes of crawling through the tunnel, you reach a hidden chamber. Zeke explains that this chamber is located directly beneath the mine's main office. "We can use this chamber to access the office," Zeke says. "There's a trapdoor in the floor that leads directly into Blackwood's private study." "But how do we get past the guards?" you ask. "I have a plan," Zeke says. "I know a way to distract them." Zeke pulls out a small vial from his pocket. "This is nitroglycerin. It's a powerful explosive. I'm going to use it to blow up the mine's main entrance. That'll create a diversion and give us a chance to sneak into the office." "Are you sure that's a good idea?" Clara asks. "That could kill people." "I don't care," Zeke says, his eyes filled with hatred. "Blackwood deserves to die, and so do his men." You hesitate for a moment. You don't want to cause any unnecessary bloodshed, but you know that you have no choice. You need to rescue Martha and the old man. "All right," you say. "Let's do it." Zeke carefully places the nitroglycerin near the mine's main entrance. He lights the fuse and runs back to the hidden chamber. A few moments later, a deafening explosion rocks the mine. The ground shakes, and the air fills with dust and debris. You, Clara, Jed, and Zeke rush towards the trapdoor in the floor. You open it and climb into Blackwood's private study. The study is a lavishly furnished room, filled with expensive furniture and valuable artifacts. Blackwood is sitting behind his desk, his face filled with rage. "What the hell is going on?" he shouts. You, Clara, Jed, and Zeke point your revolvers at Blackwood. "Silas Blackwood," you say, "you're under arrest." Blackwood laughs, a cold, chilling laugh. "You think you can arrest me? I own this town. I can do whatever I want." "Not anymore," you say. "We have evidence of your crimes. We're going to expose you for what you are." Blackwood's eyes narrow. "What evidence are you talking about?" You pull out Cookie's journal and hold it up. This journal contains everything. The corruption, the exploitation, the violence, everything. Blackwood lunges across the desk, trying to grab the journal. You shoot him in the arm. Blackwood cries out in pain and stumbles back. You point your revolver at his head. "Where are Martha and the old man?" you demand. Blackwood hesitates for a moment. Then he nods towards a door at the back of the study. "They're in the cellar," he says. You order Jed to guard Blackwood, while you and Clara and Zeke head towards the cellar. You open the door and descend the stairs, your revolvers drawn. You reach the cellar, a dark and damp room filled with barrels and crates. You see Martha and the old man tied to chairs in the corner. "Martha! Old man!" you shout. They look up, their faces filled with relief. You rush towards them and untie them, your hearts filled with joy. "Are you all right?" you ask. "We're fine," Martha says. "But we were worried about you." "We're gonna get you out of here," you say. "We're going to stop Blackwood." You, Clara, Martha, and the old man head back upstairs, leaving Zeke to watch Blackwood. You reunite with Jed and escort Blackwood outside, where the townspeople are gathered. You show them Cookie's journal and explain Blackwood's crimes. The townspeople are outraged. They turn on Blackwood, shouting insults and throwing rocks. The sheriff arrives, accompanied by a posse of deputies. He arrests Blackwood and takes him away. The townspeople cheer. They're finally free from Blackwood's tyranny. You, Clara, Martha, the old man, and Jed stand together, watching as Blackwood is led away. You've done it. You've saved redemption. "Thank you," Martha says, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You've given us our town back. We couldn't have done it without you," you say. "You're the ones who gave us the courage to fight." Clara smiles. "We make a pretty good team, don't we?" You nod. "We do." And I think this is just the beginning. You look out at the townspeople, their faces filled with hope. You know that redemption still has a long way to go. But you also know that they can overcome any challenge as long as they stick together. And as you stand there, bathed in the warm glow of the setting sun, you realize that you've found something special in redemption. You've found a purpose. You've found a home. You close your eyes, taking a deep breath of the fresh air. The taste of rancid bacon grease is finally gone. You can finally rest, or so you think. The sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The exhausted townspeople begin to disperse, returning to their homes, their faces etched with a mixture of relief and lingering fear. The air is still thick with the smell of smoke, a grim reminder of the chaos that has just unfolded. You stand with Clara, Martha, the old man, you really should get his name, and Jed, watching as the last of the townsfolk disappear. A sense of profound weariness settles over you, a bone-deep exhaustion that transcends mere physical fatigue. You've been through hell and back, and the emotional toll is beginning to weigh heavily. "Well," Clara says, breaking the silence, "I suppose we should find somewhere to sleep. I doubt the saloon will be habitable for quite some time." Jed nods in agreement. "I know a place. It's a small cabin a few miles outside of town. It's not much, but it's safe." You look at Martha and the old man. Their faces pale and drawn. "Are you two up for it?" "It's gonna be a long walk." The old man straightens his back, a spark of defiance in his eyes. "We're tougher than we look, son. We'll manage." Martha nods in agreement. A good night's sleep is exactly what we need, and so you set off into the gathering darkness, following Jed along a winding path that leads away from the smoldering ruins of redemption and into the vast, unforgiving wilderness. The air grows colder with each passing mile, and the silence is broken only by the crunch of your boots on the dry earth and the distant howl of a coyote. As you walk, You can't shake the feeling that something is wrong. A nagging unease prickles at the back of your mind. A sense that you've overlooked something important. You try to dismiss it as simple paranoia, a byproduct of the day's harrowing events, but the feeling persists, growing stronger with each step. You glance around at your companions, their faces illuminated by the pale moonlight. They all seem weary, but resolute, their spirits buoyed by the knowledge that they've accomplished something truly extraordinary. But you can't shake the feeling that their victory is only temporary, a brief respite in a long and arduous struggle. After what feels like an eternity, you finally reach the cabin. It's a small, dilapidated structure, barely more than a shack, but it offers a welcome respite from the cold and the darkness. Jed unlocks the door and leads you inside. The cabin is sparsely furnished, with a single bed, a small table, and a couple of chairs. A fireplace dominates one wall, its hearth cold and empty. The air is stale and musty, but it's a welcome change from the smoke-filled air of redemption. Jed sets about building a fire, while Clara tends to Martha and the old man. You stand by the window, gazing out at the dark and silent landscape. The feeling of unease continues to gnaw at you, refusing to be ignored. As the fire crackles to life, casting flickering shadows across the cabin walls, you finally realize what's been bothering you. It's Blackwood. You know that he's been arrested, that he's in the custody of the sheriff, but you can't shake the feeling that he's not defeated, that he's still a threat. He's a cunning and ruthless man, and you doubt that he'll allow himself to be imprisoned without a fight. You turn to Clara, your face etched with concern. "I don't trust the sheriff," you say. "I think he's still working for Blackwood." Clara's eyes widen. "What makes you say that?" "It's just a feeling," you say. "But I can't shake it. I think Blackwood has a plan. I think he's going to escape." Jed, who has been listening intently, nods in agreement. "I wouldn't put it past him. Blackwood always has a trick up his sleeve." "If Blackwood escapes," Martha says, her voice trembling, "he'll come after us. He'll want revenge." The old man clenches his fists. "We can't let that happen. We need to protect ourselves." "I agree," you say. "We need to be prepared. We need to assume that Blackwood is going to escape, and we need to have a plan in place to deal with him." Clara thinks for a moment. "I have an idea. There's an old, abandoned mine shaft a few miles from here. It's a dangerous place, but it's also easily defensible. We could use it as a safe house." "That's a good idea," Jed says. "It's better than staying here. This cabin is too exposed." "All right," you say. "Let's do it. We'll move to the mine shaft first thing in the morning." You spend the rest of the night huddled around the fire, discussing your plan and trying to stay awake. The feeling of unease continues to linger, a constant reminder of the danger that lies ahead. As the first rays of dawn peek over the horizon, you pack up your meager belongings and prepare to leave the cabin. You check your revolver, making sure it's loaded and ready to fire. You know that you may have to use it. You step outside and take a deep breath of the crisp morning air. The sky is clear and blue, and the sun is shining brightly. It's a beautiful day, but you can't shake the feeling that something terrible is about to happen. You and your companions set off for the abandoned mine shaft, following a narrow trail that winds through the rugged terrain. The walk is arduous, and the silence is broken only by the crunch of your boots on the dry earth and the occasional call of a bird. As you walk, you keep a close watch on your surroundings, scanning the horizon for any sign of danger. You know that Blackwood could be anywhere, waiting to ambush you. After several hours of walking, you finally reach the mine shaft. It's a dark and forbidding place, a gaping hole in the side of a hill. The entrance is partially collapsed, and the air is thick with the smell of damp earth and decay. You cautiously approach the entrance and peer inside. The mine shaft is dark and narrow, and the air is cold and stale. You can hear the sound of dripping water, echoing in the distance. "This place gives me the creeps," Martha says, her voice trembling. "It's not ideal," you say, "but it's safe. We can defend it." You and your companions enter the mine shaft, your hearts pounding in your chests. You know that this could be your last stand. You move slowly and cautiously through the dark and winding tunnels, your senses on high alert. You reach a large chamber, a vast cavern that opens up deep inside the hill. The chamber is damp and cold, and the air is thick with the smell of mildew. You can see the remnants of old mining equipment scattered across the floor. "This is it," you say. "This is our safe house." You and your companions set about making the chamber habitable. You gather wood and build a fire, casting flickering shadows across the cavern walls. You clear away the debris and set up a makeshift camp. As you work, you can't shake the feeling that you're being watched. You glance around nervously, searching for any sign of danger. Suddenly, you hear a noise. It's a faint scratching sound, coming from the depths of the mine. You freeze, your heart pounding in your chest. "What was that?" you whisper. "I don't know," Jed says, his voice trembling. "But it doesn't sound good." You pull out your revolver and point it towards the darkness. "Stay alert," you say. "Something's coming." The scratching sound grows louder, closer. You can hear the sound of footsteps echoing in the tunnels. Suddenly, a figure emerges from the darkness. It's a man, his face hidden by a wide-brimmed hat. He's carrying a rifle. "Who are you?" you demand. "What do you want?" The man steps into the light, revealing his face. "It's the sheriff. I'm here to arrest you," he says, his voice cold and emotionless. "You're wanted for the murder of Silas Blackwood." Your heart sinks. You've been betrayed. "Blackwood's not dead," you say. "He's alive. He's the one who's behind all this." The sheriff laughs, a dry, humorless sound. "Blackwood is dead. I saw him with my own eyes. And you're gonna pay for what you did." He raises his rifle and aims it at you. "It's over," he says. "You're finished." But then, something unexpected happens. A figure emerges from the shadows behind the sheriff. It's Eliza, Blackwood's daughter. She raises a pistol and shoots the sheriff in the back. The sheriff cries out in pain and collapses to the ground. You stare at Eliza, your mind reeling. "Why did you do that?" you ask. "I'm not like my father," she says. "I don't believe in violence. But I couldn't let him hurt you." She turns to you, her eyes pleading. "Please," she says. "You have to stop him. He's gonna destroy this town." You nod, your voice filled with determination. "We will," you say. "We're going to stop him, no matter what it takes." You turn and look out at the darkness, your hand resting on your revolver. The final battle has begun. You take a step forward, ready to face whatever challenges lie ahead. You know that the road ahead is going to be long and difficult, but you're not going to back down. You're going to fight for what's right, even if it means sacrificing everything. Because in the Wild West, sometimes the only thing that stands between good and evil is you. And maybe, just maybe, a little bit of courage too. The echoes of the gunshot fade into the oppressive silence of the mine. The sheriff lies motionless on the cavern floor, a dark stain spreading across his back. Liza stands trembling, the pistol still clutched in her hand, her face a mask of fear and determination. You stare at her, a whirlwind of conflicting emotions swirling within you. Relief, gratitude, suspicion, all vying for dominance. Can you truly trust her? Is this another trap, another layer of Blackwood's twisted game? "Why?" you ask again, your voice barely a whisper. "Why help us?" Liza lowers the pistol, her gaze fixed on the fallen sheriff. "My father, he's not the man you think he is. Or maybe he is. Maybe I just refuse to see it for too long." Her voice cracks with emotion. He talks about order, about control, but all he brings is pain and suffering. "I can't stand by and watch him destroy everything anymore." She looks up at you, her eyes pleading. He's escaped. He bribed the guards, got some of his old cronies to help him. He's coming here. He knows you have the journal. Jed steps forward, his face grim. "How do you know all this?" "I overheard him talking to one of his men," Eliza says. "He plans to kill you all, retrieve the journal, and then disappear. He has a stash of gold hidden somewhere, enough to start a new life." Martha gasps, her hand flying to her mouth. "That monster! He would sacrifice everything, even his own daughter." The old man nods grimly. "He always was a selfish bastard." Clara steps forward, her reporter's instincts kicking in. "Where is he now? How much time do we have?" Eliza hesitates. He's already on his way. He has a small army with him. I don't know exactly when he'll arrive, but it won't be long. A wave of dread washes over you. You're trapped in a dark, abandoned mine shaft, facing a ruthless enemy with superior numbers. The odds are stacked against you, but you refuse to give up. You've come too far, sacrificed too much. You won't let Blackwood win. "All right," you say, your voice hardening. "We need to prepare." "Eliza, you said you knew where he keeps some of his old stashes?" Eliza nods. "He has hideouts all over the territory, places he used during his gunslinging days. But there's one closer than the others. An old prospector's camp not far from here. He kept supplies, weapons, and a map." "A map?" Clara asks, her eyes lighting up. A map to his gold, Eliza confirms. He always said it was his insurance policy. His way out if things ever went wrong. That's it, you say. That's how we stop him. We get the map, we find his gold, and we use it to rebuild redemption. We take away his power, his influence. Jed shakes his head. It's too risky. We don't have time to go searching for some hidden treasure. We need to focus on defending this mine. We can do both, you say. Eliza can lead us to the prospectors' camp, while the rest of you prepare the mine. We'll be back as soon as possible. Martha looks at you with concern. Are you sure that's wise, dear? It's dangerous out there. We don't have a choice, you say. We need to take the fight to Blackwood. We can't just sit here and wait to be slaughtered. The old man nods in agreement. The kid's right. We need to be proactive. And if there's a chance to get our hands on Blackwood's gold, we can't pass it up. Clara puts a hand on your shoulder. Be careful, she says. Blackwood is desperate. He won't hesitate to kill you. We'll be careful, you say. But we have to do this. For redemption. You turn to Eliza. Lead the way, you say. Let's find that map. You and Eliza leave the mine shaft, venturing out into the harsh, unforgiving landscape. The sun is high in the sky, beating down on you with relentless intensity. The air is dry and dusty, and the silence is broken only by the occasional buzz of insects. As you walk, you question Eliza about her father, trying to understand what makes him tick. She tells you stories of his childhood, of his struggles to survive in a lawless land. She tells you about his ambition, his hunger for power, and his willingness to do whatever it takes to achieve his goals. He wasn't always like this, Eliza says, her voice filled with sadness. He used to be a good man. He cared about people, but something changed him. I don't know what it was, but it turned him into a monster. You listen intently, trying to reconcile the image of the ruthless tyrant with the stories Eliza is telling you. You realize that Blackwood is a complex character, a product of his environment and his own inner demons. After several hours of walking, you finally reach the prospectors' camp. It's a small, dilapidated collection of shacks and tents, barely clinging to the side of a rocky hill. The camp is deserted, abandoned long ago by its former inhabitants. You and Eliza cautiously approach the camp, your senses on high alert. You search the shacks and tents, looking for the map. Finally, you find it hidden beneath a loose floorboard in one of the shacks. It's an old, tattered piece of parchment, covered in cryptic symbols and handwritten notes. This is it, Eliza says, her voice trembling. This is the map to his gold. You examine the map closely, trying to decipher its secrets. You recognize some of the landmarks, but others are unfamiliar. We need to figure out where this leads, you say. But we don't have much time. Blackwood could be here any minute. Suddenly you hear a noise. It's the sound of horses, approaching rapidly. He's here, Eliza says, her eyes widening with fear. We need to hide. You and Eliza duck behind one of the shacks, just as Blackwood and his men ride into the camp. They're a rough-looking bunch, armed to the teeth and spoiling for a fight. Blackwood dismounts from his horse, his face a mask of fury. Search the camp, he orders. They can't have gone far. His men spread out, ransacking the shacks and tents. You and Eliza huddle behind the shack, trying to remain hidden. You can hear Blackwood's voice, booming across the camp. Find them, he shouts, and bring me that journal. I want it back. You clutch the map tightly in your hand, your heart pounding in your chest. You know that you're in grave danger. If Blackwood finds you, he'll kill you without hesitation. But you refuse to give up. You have a map, a chance to strike back at Blackwood. You won't let him take that away from you. As Blackwood's men search the camp, you and Eliza make a daring escape. You slip away unnoticed, darting between the shacks and tents until you reach the edge of the camp. You run as fast as you can, putting as much distance as possible between you and Blackwood. You don't stop until you reach a dense thicket of trees where you can catch your breath and regroup. We need to figure out where that map leads, you say, panting. We need to do it fast. Eliza nods, her face pale and drawn. I think I know, she says. There's a hidden canyon not far from here. It's marked on the map with a symbol that looks like a serpent. The Serpent Canyon, you say. I've heard stories about that place. They say it's haunted. It's also where my father hid his gold, Eliza says. I'm sure of it. Then that's where we're going, you say, your voice filled with determination. We're gonna find Blackwood's gold, and we're gonna use it to save redemption. You and Eliza set off for the Serpent Canyon. Your heart's pounding in your chests. You know that Blackwood is hot on your trail, and that he'll stop at nothing to get his gold back. But you're not afraid. You have a map, a plan, and the courage to face whatever challenges lie ahead. You're gonna stop Blackwood, and you're gonna save Redemption. Because in the Wild West, sometimes the greatest treasures are found in the most unexpected places. And sometimes, the greatest battles are fought with more than just guns. You push forward, Eliza at your side, the map clutched tightly in your hand. The Serpent Canyon awaits, promising both danger and the potential to finally break Blackwood's hold on Redemption. But even as hope flickers, a nagging doubt remains. Blackwood is a master manipulator, a survivor. What if this map, this gold, is just another carefully laid trap? You push the thought aside. You have no choice but to trust Eliza, to trust the possibility of a future free from Blackwood's tyranny. The fate of Redemption, and perhaps your own survival, hangs in the balance. You press on, into the heart of the Serpent Canyon. The Serpent Canyon lives up to its name. Jagged, serpentine rock formations twist skyward, casting long, ominous shadows that dance across the canyon floor. The air is thick with an unnatural stillness, broken only by the mournful sigh of the wind whistling through the narrow passages. It's a place that feels ancient, forgotten, and undeniably haunted. Eliza leads the way, her steps hesitant but purposeful. She seems to know the canyon well, navigating the treacherous terrain with a practiced ease. You follow close behind, your senses on high alert, your hand never straying far from your revolver. The map is cryptic, filled with symbols and landmarks that are difficult to decipher, but Eliza seems to understand its language, pointing out hidden trails and obscure rock formations that correspond to the markings on the parchment. As you venture deeper into the canyon, you begin to feel a growing sense of unease. The silence is oppressive, the shadows are menacing, and the air is heavy with an almost palpable sense of dread. You can't shake the feeling that you're being watched, that unseen eyes are following your every move. Are you sure this is the right way? You ask, your voice barely above a whisper. Eliza nods, her face pale and drawn. I think so. The map says the gold is hidden near a waterfall. There's a small waterfall just ahead. You round a bend in the canyon and see it, a narrow stream of water cascading down a sheer rock face, forming a small pool at its base. The waterfall is shrouded in mist, creating an ethereal, almost otherworldly atmosphere. This is it, Eliza says, her voice trembling. The map says the entrance to the hiding place is behind the waterfall. You approach the waterfall cautiously, your hand gripping your revolver. The mist is cold and damp, and the air is thick with the smell of wet stone. You reach the base of the waterfall and peer behind it. You see a narrow opening in the rock face, barely large enough to squeeze through. This must be it, you say, the entrance to Blackwood's gold. You take a deep breath and step behind the waterfall, plunging into the darkness. The opening is narrow and cramped, forcing you to crawl on your hands and knees. The tunnel slopes downward, leading you deeper and deeper into the heart of the canyon. The air is stale and musty, and the silence is broken only by the sound of your own breathing. After what feels like an eternity, the tunnel opens into a small chamber. The chamber is dimly lit by a single shaft of sunlight that penetrates through a crack in the ceiling. You stand up and look around, your eyes widening in disbelief. The chamber is filled with gold. Stacks of gold bars are piled high against the walls, gleaming in the dim light. Bags of gold coins are scattered across the floor. The chamber is a veritable treasure trove, a testament to Blackwood's greed and avarice. This is it, Eliza says, her voice filled with awe. This is his gold. This is what he's been hoarding all these years. You walk towards the gold, your fingers tracing the smooth, cold surface of the bars. You can't believe your eyes. You found it. You found Blackwood's fortune. But as you reach out to grab a gold bar, you hear a voice behind you. I wouldn't do that if I were you. You turn around and see him, Silas Blackwood, standing in the entrance to the chamber, a pistol in his hand, a cruel smile on his face. Hello, your name, he says, his voice dripping with malice. I've been expecting you. Eliza gasps, her face turning white with fear. Father, what are you doing here? I'm here to take back what's mine, Blackwood says, his eyes fixed on you, and to punish those who have betrayed me. He raises his pistol and aims it at you. It's over, he says. You're finished. But as he pulls the trigger, Eliza steps in front of you, shielding you from the bullet. The bullet strikes her in the chest, sending her sprawling to the ground. You stare in horror as Eliza collapses, her lifeblood staining the chamber floor. "Eliza!" you cry, rushing to her side. She looks up at you, her eyes filled with pain and regret. "I'm sorry," she whispers. "I tried to stop him." She takes a final breath and dies in your arms. Rage explodes within you, consuming you with its fiery intensity. You look at Blackwood, your eyes filled with hatred. "You monster!" you scream. "You killed your own daughter." Blackwood laughs, a cold, chilling laugh. "She was a traitor," he says. "She deserved to die." He raises his pistol again, preparing to finish you off. But you're ready for him. You draw your revolver and fire, hitting Blackwood in the shoulder. He cries out in pain and stumbles backward, dropping his pistol. You rush towards him, tackling him to the ground. You straddle him, pinning him beneath you. Rain blows down on his face, your fists fueled by rage and grief. You punch him again and again, until his face is a bloody mess. "You're gonna pay for what you did." You scream. "You're going to pay for everything." You continue to pummel him until he's unconscious. You stand up, your body trembling, your hands covered in blood. You look down at Blackwood's broken body, your heart filled with a mixture of satisfaction and disgust. You've defeated him. You've avenged Eliza's death, but the victory feels hollow, empty. Eliza is gone, and nothing you can do will bring her back. You turn and look at the gold, the treasure that Blackwood coveted so much. It seems meaningless now, tainted by his greed and violence. You realize that the real treasure isn't the gold, but the people of redemption. They're the ones who deserve to be saved. They're the ones who deserve a better life. You decide to leave the gold behind. You'll tell the townspeople where it is, and let them decide what to do with it. You turn and leave the chamber, leaving Blackwood's body behind. You emerge from the tunnel, blinking in the sunlight. You walk back to Redemption, your heart heavy with grief. You have a story to tell. A story of betrayal, sacrifice, and ultimately, hope. You return to the town and tell them what happened. The townspeople are shocked and saddened by Eliza's death, but they're also grateful for your courage and your sacrifice. They decide to use the gold to rebuild Redemption, to create a better future for themselves and their children. They build a new school, a new hospital, and a new church. They create a town where everyone has a chance to succeed, regardless of their background. And as you look out at the new Redemption, you realize that you finally found your place in the Wild West. You found a home, a purpose, and a family. You're no longer just a greenhorn. You're a hero. You're a legend. And your story will be told for generations to come. The weight of Eliza's death settles upon Redemption like a shroud. The initial jubilation at Blackwood's downfall is quickly replaced by a somber grief. The townspeople, gathered around the newly erected gallows where Blackwood's body now hangs as a grim warning, are subdued, their faces etched with a mixture of sorrow and a dawning realization of the true cost of freedom. You stand apart from the crowd, the taste of blood still lingering in your mouth. The image of Eliza's lifeless eyes seared into your memory. The accolades of the townsfolk ring hollow in your ears. You're a hero, they say. You saved Redemption, they proclaim. But all you can feel is the crushing weight of loss. Clara approaches you, her expression grave. "He's gone," she says softly, placing a hand on your arm. "He can't hurt anyone anymore." You nod, unable to speak. The words catch in your throat, choked by grief and regret. "She believed in you," Clara continues, her voice barely a whisper. "She believed in Redemption. Don't let her sacrifice be in vain." You look at Clara, her eyes filled with a quiet strength that belies the horror she's witnessed. She's right. You can't let Eliza's death be meaningless. You owe it to her, to the town, to yourself. To see this through, you take a deep breath, trying to steel your resolve. "What now?" you ask, your voice raspy. Clara looks out at the crowd, her gaze sweeping across the faces of the townspeople. "Now," she says, "we rebuild." The following days are a blur of activity. The townspeople, spurred on by Eliza's sacrifice and fueled by a newfound sense of unity, begin the arduous task of rebuilding Redemption. The gold from Blackwood's cache is distributed amongst the townsfolk, providing them with the resources they need to rebuild their homes and businesses. You, along with Clara, Martha, and the old man, become central figures in the rebuilding effort. You help to organize the distribution of supplies, oversee the construction of new buildings, and provide comfort and support to those who have lost everything. Jed, surprisingly, takes on a leadership role, using his knowledge of the town and its inhabitants to coordinate the various rebuilding projects. He seems to have found a sense of purpose in the aftermath of the chaos, a sense of responsibility that belies his gruff exterior. As redemption slowly begins to heal, you find yourself drawn to the cemetery on the outskirts of town. You visit Eliza's grave every day, spending hours sitting in silence, reflecting on her life and her sacrifice. Her grave is simple, marked only by a wooden cross and a small bouquet of wildflowers, but to you it's a sacred place, a reminder of the true meaning of courage and compassion. One evening, as you're sitting by Eliza's grave, the old man approaches you. He sits down beside you, his face etched with a mixture of sadness and understanding. "She was a good woman," he says, his voice low and gravelly. "She had a good heart." You nod, unable to speak. "You did the right thing," he continues, placing a hand on your shoulder. "You saved this town. You gave us a chance to start over." You look at the old man, his eyes filled with a quiet wisdom that transcends his age. "But at what cost?" you ask, your voice filled with anguish. "She's gone. And it's my fault." The old man shakes his head. "It's not your fault," he says. "Blackwood was responsible for his own actions. He made his choices, and he paid the price." "But she wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for me," you say. "She wouldn't have gotten involved." "Maybe not," the old man says. "But she chose to help you. She believed in what you were doing. And she died a hero." He pauses, taking a deep breath. "You can't change what happened," he continues, "but you can honor her memory by living a good life, by making redemption a better place." His words resonate within you, filling you with a sense of purpose. He's right. You can't bring Eliza back, but you can honor her sacrifice by dedicating yourself to the rebuilding of redemption. You stand up, your resolve renewed. "You're right," you say. "I owe it to her." The old man smiles, a rare and precious sight. "That's the spirit," he says. "Now let's go get some grub." Martha's making a new batch of stew. You smile, a genuine smile for the first time in days. You know that the road ahead will be long and difficult, but you're not afraid. You have a community to support, a town to rebuild, and a memory to honor. You walk with the old man back towards redemption, your heart filled with a newfound sense of hope. The sun is setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The air is crisp and clean, carrying the scent of freshly sawn lumber and blooming wildflowers. As you enter the town, you see the townspeople gathered in the town square. They're laughing and talking, sharing stories and dreams. The sounds of music and merriment fill the air. Redemption is rising from the ashes, stronger and more resilient than ever before. And you, the greenhorn, who stumbled into this town by chance, have played a pivotal role in its rebirth. You join the townspeople in the square, feeling a sense of belonging that you've never experienced before. You're no longer an outsider. You're one of them. You're a part of redemption. As the night wears on, you find yourself drawn to Martha's stew pot. The aroma is intoxicating, a blend of savory herbs and spices that promises warmth and nourishment. You approach the pot cautiously, remembering your first encounter with Martha's infamous concoction. But this time, something is different. The stew smells delicious. Martha sees you approaching and smiles, her eyes twinkling. "Come on, dear," she says. "Have a bowl. It'll warm you right up." You hesitate for a moment, then take a deep breath and ladle a generous portion of stew into a bowl. You take a tentative sip, your eyes widening in surprise. The stew is incredible. It's rich and flavorful, with a complex blend of ingredients that tantalizes your taste buds. It's nothing like the rancid concoction you tasted before. "This is amazing," you say, your voice filled with genuine appreciation. "What did you do differently?" Martha smiles knowingly. "I added a secret ingredient," she says. "A pinch of hope." You laugh, a hearty, genuine laugh that echoes through the town square. You realize that Martha is right. Hope is the secret ingredient, the key to rebuilding redemption and creating a better future. You finish your bowl of stew, feeling a sense of contentment that you haven't experienced in a long time. You look out at the townspeople, their faces illuminated by the flickering lamplight. They're laughing and dancing, celebrating their newfound freedom. You realize that you've found your courage stew. It's not made of rattlesnake venom or bear meat. It's made of hope, resilience, and the unwavering spirit of the people of redemption. And as you stand there, surrounded by your new family, you know that you're finally home. The Wild West may be a dangerous and unforgiving place, but it's also a place of opportunity, a place where anything is possible. And you, the greenhorn who arrived in Redemption with nothing but a journal and a dream, have proven that even in the darkest of times, hope can prevail. You close your eyes, taking a deep breath of the fresh air. The scent of Martha's stew fills your nostrils, a comforting reminder of the journey you've undertaken. You open your eyes and smile, a smile that reaches all the way to your soul. You're ready for whatever the future may hold. You're ready to face any challenge, any obstacle, because you're not just a greenhorn anymore. You're a part of Redemption, and you're here to stay. Sleep now, for tomorrow, a new day dawns, a day filled with the promise of a brighter future. A future built on hope, resilience, and the unwavering spirit of a town called Redemption. The end, or is it? The Wild West is vast and unpredictable. New adventures await, new challenges to overcome. But for now, rest. You've earned it. The end for now. The embers of the campfire crackle and fade, mirroring the slow return to normalcy and redemption. But the Wild West rarely allows for true peace. The seeds of future conflict are always sown, waiting for the right moment to sprout. Weeks turn into months. Redemption thrives. The new schoolhouse buzzes with the laughter of children, learning to read and write, dreaming of a future beyond the dusty streets. The hospital, a simple structure but a beacon of hope, tends to the sick and injured, offering a sanctuary from the harsh realities of frontier life. The church, rebuilt with loving hands, serves as a spiritual center, a place for solace and reflection. You find yourself settling into a routine, a rhythm that feels both comforting and strangely unsettling. You help Martha in her garden, tending to the vegetables and herbs that nourish the town. You assist Jed in maintaining the irrigation system, ensuring a steady supply of water for the crops. You teach the children how to shoot, how to defend themselves, in a world where danger lurks around every corner. But beneath the surface of this newfound tranquility, a sense of unease lingers. You can't shake the feeling that Blackwood's influence, like a persistent weed, is still present in Redemption. His cronies, those who escaped justice in the aftermath of his downfall, are still out there, plotting and scheming, waiting for an opportunity to reclaim their lost power. One sweltering afternoon, as you're repairing a fence on the outskirts of town, a lone rider approaches. He's a grizzled old prospector, his face weathered and tanned, his eyes squinting against the harsh sunlight. He dismounts from his horse and walks towards you, his gait slow and deliberate. "You're the one they call your name, ain't ya?" he says, his voice raspy and low. You nod, your hand instinctively reaching for your revolver. "Who's asking?" The prospector spits a stream of tobacco juice onto the dusty ground. "Name's Silas," he says. "No relation." He pauses, his eyes scanning the horizon. "I got something you need to hear." You lower your hand slightly, your curiosity piqued. "What is it?" "Blackwood's gold," Silas says, his voice barely a whisper. "It ain't all been found." Your eyes widen. "What are you talking about?" "We searched that canyon thoroughly." "You found the main stash, sure," Silas says. "But Blackwood was a sly one. He had pockets all over this territory. I reckon there's more gold hidden somewhere, enough to make a man rich beyond his wildest dreams." "How do you know this?" you ask, your suspicion growing. Silas shrugs. "I used to work for Blackwood, back in the day. I know his ways. He always had a backup plan, a secret stash for a rainy day." He leans in closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "I even know where it is." Your heart pounds in your chest. Could this be true? Could there really be more of Blackwood's gold hidden somewhere, waiting to be discovered? "Where?" you ask, your voice barely audible. Silas smiles, a toothless grin that sends a shiver down your spine. "That's the question, ain't it?" he says. "I'll tell you, but it'll cost you." You frown, your suspicion deepening. "What do you want?" "I want to share," Silas says, "half of whatever we find. And I want your protection. Blackwood's old cronies are still out there. They'll be looking for this gold too." You hesitate. This could be a trap. Silas could be working for Blackwood's men, trying to lure you into an ambush. But the lure of the gold is too strong to resist. It could be the key to securing Redemption's future, to ensuring its long-term prosperity. You take a deep breath, weighing your options. "All right," you say, "I'm in. But I'm calling the shots, and if I find out you're lying to me, you'll regret it." Silas smiles, his eyes gleaming with greed. "Deal," he says. "Now, let's get started." He pulls out a tattered map from his pocket, pointing to a remote location in the mountains. The gold is hidden in an old silver mine, he says. It's called the Lost Hope Mine. It's been abandoned for years, but I reckon it's still got a few surprises left. You study the map, your mind racing. The Lost Hope Mine. You've heard stories about that place. They say it's cursed, haunted by the ghosts of the miners who died there. But you're not afraid. You've faced worse dangers than ghosts. You're determined to find Blackwood's gold, to secure Redemption's future. You turn to Silas, your face set with determination. Let's go, you say. Let's find the Lost Hope Mine. You know that this is a risky venture. You're venturing into unknown territory with a man you don't trust, in search of a treasure that may not even exist. But you're willing to take the risk. You're willing to face whatever challenges lie ahead. Because you believe in Redemption. You believe in its people. And you're willing to do whatever it takes to protect them. You mount your horse and ride off into the sunset, Silas following close behind. The Lost Hope Mine awaits, promising both danger and the potential for unimaginable wealth. But as you ride, you can't shake the feeling that you're being watched. You glance around nervously, scanning the horizon for any sign of pursuit. You know that Blackwood's men are out there. They're waiting for you, and they're not going to let you find that gold without a fight. The Wild West is a dangerous place, and your adventure is just beginning. The journey to the Lost Hope Mine is arduous and unforgiving. The landscape transforms from rolling plains to rugged mountains, the air growing thinner with each ascent. The sun beats down relentlessly, turning the dusty trails into shimmering mirages. Silas, despite his age, proves to be a surprisingly resilient guide. He knows the mountains well, navigating the treacherous terrain with a skill born of years spent prospecting in the wilderness. He tells stories of lost treasures, of ghost towns and forgotten mines, weaving a tapestry of folklore and history that keeps you entertained, even as your muscles ache and your throat parches with thirst. But beneath his folksy charm, you sense a hidden agenda. You catch him glancing at you with a calculating glint in his eyes, his smile never quite reaching his soul. You know that you can't trust him, that he's driven by greed and self-preservation. But you need him to find the mine, to uncover Blackwood's hidden stash. As you travel deeper into the mountains, you begin to notice signs of civilization. Dilapidated shacks cling to the hillsides, remnants of a once thriving mining community. Rusting machinery lies scattered across the landscape, a testament to the dreams that were chased and lost in this desolate place. You pass through a ghost town, its buildings standing silent and empty, their windows like vacant eyes staring out at the passing riders. The air is thick with a sense of decay, a palpable reminder of the fleeting nature of human ambition. Silas tells you the story of the town, of the silver strike that brought wealth and prosperity, and of the mine collapse that brought ruin and death. He speaks of the ghosts that haunt the streets, the spirits of the miners who perished in the depths of the earth, forever trapped in the darkness. You listen intently, your heart pounding in your chest. You can almost feel the presence of the ghosts, their mournful cries echoing in the wind. As dusk approaches, you reach the entrance to the Lost Hope Mine. It's a gaping hole in the side of a mountain, its entrance partially collapsed, its darkness promising both adventure and danger. The air is cold and damp, and the silence is broken only by the sound of dripping water. You can feel the weight of the mountain pressing down on you, a sense of claustrophobia creeping into your mind. This is it, Silas says, his voice barely above a whisper. The Lost Hope Mine. You dismount from your horse and approach the entrance cautiously, your hand resting on your revolver. The darkness is impenetrable, swallowing the light like a hungry beast. Are you sure this is the right place, you ask, your voice trembling slightly. Silas nods, his eyes gleaming with excitement. I'm sure, he says. I can feel it. The gold is close. You take a deep breath and step into the darkness, Silas following close behind. The air grows colder, the silence more oppressive. You light a lantern, its flickering glow illuminating the narrow tunnel. The walls are damp and slimy, covered in moss and lichen. The air is thick, with the smell of mildew and decay. You move slowly and cautiously through the tunnel, your senses on high alert. You can hear the sound of dripping water echoing in the distance, a constant reminder of the danger that surrounds you. As you venture deeper into the mine, you begin to see signs of past activity. Rusty mining tools lie scattered across the floor, their handles rotted and broken. Dilapidated wooden supports hold up the ceiling, their timbers groaning under the weight of the mountain. You pass through a series of abandoned chambers, each one more dilapidated and eerie than the last. You can almost picture the miners working in these chambers, their faces grimy and sweat-soaked, their bodies aching with exhaustion. Silas tells you stories of the miners, of their hopes and dreams, of their struggles and hardships. He speaks of the silver they extracted from the earth, of the wealth they accumulated, and of the lives they lost. You listen intently, your heart filled with a mixture of sympathy and dread. You can't help but feel a connection to these long-dead miners, their spirits forever trapped in the depths of the earth. As you continue your descent, you begin to hear a strange noise, a faint scratching sound that seems to be coming from the walls. You stop and listen, your heart pounding in your chest. "What was that?" you ask, your voice barely a whisper. Silas shrugs. "Probably just rats," he says. "This place is crawling with them." You're not convinced. The scratching sound seems too deliberate, too focused. It sounds like something is digging, something is trying to break through the wall. You shine your lantern on the wall, examining it closely. You see a small crack, a hairline fracture that runs along the surface of the rock. You reach out and touch the crack, your fingers tracing its outline. You can feel a slight vibration, a subtle tremor that seems to be emanating from within. "I don't think those are rats," you say, your voice trembling. "I think there's something behind this wall." Silas scoffs. "Don't be ridiculous," he says. "There's nothing behind that wall but solid rock." You ignore him and continue to examine the crack. You notice that it's widening, slowly but surely. Suddenly, a section of the wall collapses, sending a shower of dust and debris into the air. You stumble backward, coughing and choking, your eyes watering. When the dust settles, you see a small opening in the wall, barely large enough to crawl through. The opening is dark and mysterious, its depths concealing some unknown secret. You stare at the opening, your heart pounding in your chest. What lies beyond? More tunnels? More chambers? Or something else entirely? What is it? Silas asks, his voice filled with a mixture of fear and excitement. "What's behind that wall?" You don't answer. You're too transfixed by the opening, too drawn to its unknown depths. You take a deep breath and approach the opening cautiously, your hand resting on your revolver. You know that you're about to venture into the unknown, to face whatever dangers lie ahead. But you're not afraid. You're driven by a thirst for adventure, a desire to uncover the secrets of the Lost Hope Mine. You crawl through the opening, plunging into the darkness. You leave Silas behind, his fate unknown. You're alone now, in the depths of the earth, facing whatever horrors await you. But you're ready. You're prepared. You're determined to find Blackwood's gold, to secure redemption's future. Your adventure has just begun. The passage through the collapsed wall is tighter than you anticipated. Jagged edges of rock scrape against your clothes, and the air is thick with the smell of damp earth and something else. Something acrid, metallic, almost like blood. You push onward, driven by a potent mix of curiosity and trepidation. Finally, you emerge into a small, circular chamber. The air here is even colder, and the silence is absolute, broken only by the frantic thumping of your own heart. The beam of your lantern dances across the chamber walls, revealing a scene that makes your blood run cold. Skeletal remains are scattered across the floor, their bones bleached white by time and decay. Tattered remnants of mining clothes cling to their frames, hinting at the identities of the long-dead miners. The air is thick with the weight of their suffering, their hopes and dreams extinguished in this forgotten corner of the earth. You take a step back, your stomach churning. This is no ordinary mine, this is a tomb. As your eyes adjust to the dim light, you notice something else. Scratched into the chamber walls are symbols, crude and unsettling. Unlike anything you've ever seen, they depict grotesque figures, twisted faces, and bizarre rituals. They seem to pulsate with a dark energy, radiating an aura of malevolence. You feel a shiver run down your spine. This place is evil. You force yourself to push onward, driven by the need to find Blackwood's gold. You can't let the ghosts of the past deter you from your mission. You search the chamber thoroughly, examining every nook and cranny. You find nothing but bones and dust. Disappointment washes over you. Had Silas lied? Was this all a wild goose chase? Just as you're about to give up, you notice something hidden in the shadows, a small wooden chest, tucked away in a corner of the chamber. Your heart leaps with excitement. Could this be it? Could this be Blackwood's hidden stash? You rush towards the chest, your hands trembling. You lift the lid and peer inside. Your breath catches in your throat. The chest is filled with gold. Stacks of gold bars are piled high inside, their surfaces gleaming in the lantern light. Bags of gold coins are scattered across the top, their edges glinting like jewels. This is it. You found it. You found Blackwood's lost fortune. A wave of relief washes over you, followed by a surge of triumph. You've overcome the dangers of the mine, the ghosts of the past, and the treachery of Silas. You've earned this gold, but as you reach out to grab a gold bar, you hear a voice behind you. Looking for something? You whirl around, your hand instinctively reaching for your revolver. Standing in the entrance to the chamber is Silas, his face contorted in a sinister grin. "I see you found my little secret," he says, his voice dripping with malice. Your heart sinks. You've been betrayed. "What is this, Silas?" you ask, your voice filled with anger. "What's going on?" Silas laughs, a dry, humorless sound that echoes through the chamber. "I never said I was going to share the gold with you," he says. "I just needed you to find it for me." He pulls out a pistol and aims it at you. "Now hand over the gold," he says, "and maybe I'll let you live." You stare at Silas, your mind racing. You've been outsmarted, outmaneuvered. You're trapped in a dark underground chamber facing a treacherous enemy. But you refuse to give up. You've come too far, sacrificed too much. You won't let Silas take the gold, not without a fight. "You think you can get away with this?" you ask, your voice hardening. "You think you can just take what's mine?" Silas shrugs. "I don't see why not," he says. "You're just a greenhorn, a naive fool who stumbled into something you don't understand." He cocks the hammer of his pistol, the sound echoing through the chamber. "Now, hand over the gold," he repeats, "or I'll blow your brains out." You know that you're in a desperate situation. Silas has the upper hand, he has the gun, and you're trapped. But you're not going to surrender. You're gonna fight. You take a deep breath and reach for your revolver, your movement slow and deliberate. You know that you need to be quick, that you need to catch Silas off guard. As you draw your revolver, you notice something out of the corner of your eye, a flicker of movement in the shadows. You glance towards the shadows and see it. A figure, standing silently in the darkness. It's one of the ghosts, the spirits of the long-dead miners. The ghost is translucent, ethereal, its form shimmering in the lantern light. It's staring at Silas, its eyes filled with hatred. Silas doesn't see the ghost. He's too focused on you, too intent on getting the gold. As you level your revolver at Silas, the ghost lunges forward, its spectral form slamming into him. Silas cries out in surprise, his body convulsing. He drops his pistol and stumbles backward, clutching at his chest. You seize the opportunity. You fire your revolver, the bullet striking Silas in the shoulder. Silas screams in pain and collapses to the ground, writhing in agony. You rush towards him, your heart pounding in your chest. You point your revolver at his head, your finger trembling on the trigger. "Why, Silas?" you ask, your voice filled with anger. "Why did you do this?" Silas looks up at you, his face contorted in pain and rage. "I needed the gold," he gasps. "I needed it to start over." "Start over?" you say, your voice filled with disbelief. "You were willing to kill me for money?" Silas shrugs. "It's the Wild West," he says. "Everyone's willing to kill for money." You hesitate for a moment, your finger hovering over the trigger. You know that you should kill Silas, that he deserves to die, but you can't do it. You're not a killer. You lower your revolver, your hand trembling. "Get out," you say. "Get out of here and never come back." Silas looks at you, his eyes filled with hatred. He struggles to his feet and stumbles out of the chamber, leaving you alone with the gold. You stand there for a moment, your body trembling, your mind reeling. You've survived another close call, another brush with death. You look at the gold, the treasure that Silas was willing to kill for. It seems tainted now, corrupted by greed and violence. You decide to leave the gold behind. You'll tell the townspeople about it and let them decide what to do with it. You turn and leave the chamber, leaving the gold and the ghosts behind. You emerge from the collapsed wall, blinking in the sunlight. You walk back towards redemption, your heart heavy with the weight of your experiences. You've learned a valuable lesson about trust, about greed, and about the darkness that lurks within the human heart. You know that the Wild West is a dangerous place, a place where anything can happen, but you're determined to survive, to protect redemption, and to build a better future for yourself and for those you care about. Your adventure is far from over. You stumble out of the Lost Hope mine, the weight of your experiences pressing down on you. The setting sun casts long, distorted shadows across the landscape, painting the world in hues of orange and purple. The air is still and silent, as if holding its breath in anticipation of what's to come. As you walk away from the mine, you can't shake the feeling that you're being watched. You glance around nervously, scanning the surrounding hills for any sign of movement. You know that Silas could be lurking nearby, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Or worse, Blackwood's cronies could be closing in, drawn by the promise of gold. You quicken your pace, determined to reach redemption before nightfall. You need to warn the townspeople about Silas, to prepare them for a possible attack. As you descend the mountain, you pass through the ghost town again. The dilapidated buildings seem even more sinister in the fading light, their shadows stretching out like grasping claws. The air is thick with the weight of the past, the echoes of the miners' hopes and dreams mingling with the specter of their tragic demise. You hurry through the town, trying to ignore the eerie silence and the feeling of being watched. You can almost feel the presence of the ghosts, their mournful cries echoing in the wind. Just as you're about to leave the town behind, you hear a noise. A faint, rhythmic clatter, like the sound of horses' hooves on stone. You freeze, your heart pounding in your chest. Someone is coming. You duck behind one of the buildings, peering out cautiously. You see them, a group of riders emerging from the shadows at the far end of the street. They're dressed in black, their faces hidden beneath wide-brimmed hats. They carry rifles and pistols, their weapons glinting in the fading light. Blackwood's cronies. You know that you're in trouble. You're outnumbered, outgunned. You have no chance of escaping. But you refuse to surrender. You're gonna fight. You take a deep breath and step out from behind the building, your revolver drawn. You level your weapon at the riders, your hands steady. Hold it right there. You shout, your voice ringing through the silent town. I know who you are. I know what you want. The riders stop, their horses pawing at the ground. They stare at you, their faces impassive. Well, 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 a voice says from the back of the group. Look what we have here. It's the Greenhorn. A man steps forward, his face illuminated by the setting sun. It's Jebediah, one of Blackwood's most trusted lieutenants. We've been looking for you, Jebediah says, his voice dripping with malice. We heard you found the Lost Hope mine. I didn't find anything, you say, your voice firm. There's nothing in that mine but ghosts and dust. Jebediah laughs, a dry, humorless sound that sends a shiver down your spine. Don't play coy with me, he says. We know you found the gold, and we're here to take it back. There's no gold to take, you say. I left it in the mine. Jebediah's eyes narrow. You think we're fools, he says. You think we're gonna believe that? You're lying. He raises his rifle and aims it at you. Hand over the gold, he says, or we'll kill you. You know that you're out of options. You can't escape, and you can't reason with these men. They're driven by greed and loyalty to Blackwood. You take a deep breath and prepare to fight. You know that you're likely to die, but you're not going to go down without a struggle. Just as Jebediah is about to pull the trigger, a voice calls out from behind you. Leave him alone. You turn around and see her, Clara, standing in the middle of the street, her rifle raised and aimed at the riders. Clara, you shout, your voice filled with surprise and relief. What are you doing here? I'm here to help you, she says, her voice firm. I heard about Silas, and I knew you might be in trouble. Jebediah laughs, a dismissive sound. You think you can stop us? He says. You're just a woman. Don't underestimate me, Clara says, her eyes flashing with anger. I'm not afraid of you. She fires her rifle, the bullet striking Jebediah in the arm. He cries out in pain and drops his rifle. The other riders react instantly, firing their weapons at Clara. Bullets whiz past you, striking the buildings behind you. You dive for cover, pulling Clara down with you. You huddle behind one of the buildings, trying to avoid the gunfire. We need to get out of here, Clara shouts, her voice breathless. They've got us pinned down. You know that she's right. You can't stay here. You need to find a way to escape. You look around frantically, searching for an escape route. You see it, a narrow alleyway leading into the darkness. Follow me, you shout, grabbing Clara's hand. We can get away through the alley. You and Clara dart into the alleyway. the sounds of gunfire echoing behind you. The alley is narrow and dark, filled with shadows and debris. The air is thick, with the smell of garbage and decay. You run as fast as you can, your heart pounding in your chest. You know that Jebediah and his men are right behind you, hot on your trail. As you reach the end of the alleyway, you see that it opens onto a narrow street. The street is deserted, the buildings on either side standing silent and empty. We need to find somewhere to hide, Clara says, her voice breathless. They'll be looking for us. You scan the street, searching for a safe haven. You see it. A small, abandoned saloon. Its windows boarded up, its door hanging open. Let's try the saloon, you say. It's our best chance. You and Clara dash across the street and into the saloon, the sounds of gunfire still echoing behind you. The saloon is dark and dusty, filled with cobwebs and broken furniture. The air is thick, with the smell of stale beer and decay. You barricade the door with a heavy table, hoping to buy yourself some time. You know that it won't hold for long, but it might give you a chance to plan your next move. What do we do now? Clara asks, her voice filled with anxiety. They'll be here any minute. You take a deep breath, trying to remain calm. You need to think clearly, to come up with a plan. We need to find a way to escape, you say. There must be another way out of this saloon. You start searching the saloon, looking for a hidden exit. You examine the walls, the floors, the ceilings. You find nothing. Just as you're about to give up, you notice something hidden beneath a pile of debris, a trapdoor leading down into the darkness. I found something, you shout, your voice filled with excitement. A trapdoor. You and Clara rush towards the trapdoor, your hearts pounding in your chests. You lift the trapdoor and peer down into the darkness. You see a narrow staircase, leading down into what appears to be a cellar. The air is cold and damp, and the silence is broken only by the sound of dripping water. This could be our way out, you say, but it could also be a trap. You hesitate for a moment, weighing your options. You know that it's risky, but you don't have any other choice. Let's do it, Clara says, her voice firm. We have nothing to lose. You take a deep breath and descend the staircase, Clara following close behind. The staircase is steep and slippery, and the darkness is almost impenetrable. You reach the bottom of the staircase and find yourselves in a small, damp cellar. The cellar is filled with cobwebs and barrels, the air thick with the smell of mildew and decay. You light a lantern, its flickering glow illuminating the cellar. You see that there's another door at the far end of the room. That must lead somewhere, you say, your voice filled with hope. Let's check it out. You and Clara cautiously approach the door, your hands resting on your weapons. You open the door and peer through. You see a narrow tunnel leading into the darkness. The tunnel is low and cramped, forcing you to crawl on your hands and knees. This is it, you say. This is our escape route. You and Clara crawl through the tunnel, the dirt and grime clinging to your clothes. The air is stale and suffocating, and the silence is broken only by the sound of your own breathing. After what feels like an eternity, you reach the end of the tunnel. You emerge into a small clearing, hidden behind the saloon. You and Clara stand up, gasping for air. You're safe, for now, but you know that Jebediah and his men will be looking for you. They won't give up easily. Where do we go now? Clara asks, her voice filled with exhaustion. We can't stay here. You scan the horizon, trying to decide what to do. You see it, a faint light flickering in the distance. I see a light, you say. It must be a house or a farm. Let's head towards it. You and Clara set off towards the light, your bodies aching, your spirits weary. You know that the journey ahead will be long and difficult, but you're determined to survive, to protect redemption, and to bring Blackwood's cronies to justice. As you walk, you can't help but wonder what awaits you at the end of your journey. Will you find safety and shelter, or will you find more danger and betrayal? The Wild West is a land of uncertainty, a place where anything can happen, but you're not afraid. You're ready for whatever challenges lie ahead. You're a survivor, and you're not going to back down. The night is dark, the stars are dim, and the road ahead is long. But you have a purpose. You have a mission, and you're not going to rest until you've achieved your goals. You press on, your determination fueled by hope and an unwavering belief in the power of redemption. The light in the distance grows brighter, beckoning you towards an unknown destiny. The fate of redemption, and perhaps your own survival, hangs in the balance. You press on, into the darkness. The light, as you draw closer, resolves into a flickering candle in the window of a small, ramshackle cabin. The cabin is nestled in a clearing, surrounded by a dense forest. It looks isolated and vulnerable, a tiny beacon of civilization in the vast wilderness. You and Clara approach the cabin cautiously, your senses on high alert. You don't know who lives here, or whether they can be trusted. You knock on the door, your hand resting on your revolver. You wait, your heart pounding in your chest. After a moment, the door creaks open, revealing a wizened old woman, her face etched with wrinkles, her eyes peering out from behind thick spectacles. She is dressed in a simple, homespun dress, her gray hair pulled back into a tight bun. "Who's there?" she asks, her voice raspy and suspicious. "We're travelers," you say, your voice polite. "We're lost, and we need help." The old woman eyes you and Clara skeptically, her gaze lingering on your weapons. "What kind of help do you need?" she asks. "We need shelter," you say, "and we need to rest. We've been through a lot." The old woman hesitates for a moment, then sighs. "All right," she says. "Come in, but don't try anything." You and Clara step into the cabin, the old woman closing the door behind you. The cabin is small and cluttered, but it's clean and cozy. A fire burns in the hearth, casting a warm glow over the room. "My name is Agnes," the old woman says. "What are your names?" "I'm your name," you say. "And this is Clara." "All right." "Your name and Clara," Agnes says. "You can stay here for the night, but you have to tell me what's going on. I don't take kindly to secrets." You and Clara exchange glances. You know that you need to be careful, that you can't trust Agnes completely. But you also know that you need her help. You decide to tell her a condensed version of the truth, leaving out some of the more dangerous details. You tell her about Blackwood, about his cronies, and about your escape from the ghost town. Agnes listens intently, her eyes narrowed. When you're finished, she nods slowly. "I knew Blackwood was trouble," she says. "He used to come by here sometimes, looking for supplies. He always gave me the creeps." "Can you help us?" Clara asks, her voice pleading. "We need to get back to Redemption, to warn the townspeople." Agnes hesitates for a moment, then nods. "I can help you," she says. "I have a wagon and a team of horses. I can take you to the next town, where you can catch a stagecoach." "Thank you," you say, your voice filled with gratitude. "You don't know how much this means to us." "Don't thank me yet," Agnes says. "Blackwood's men are dangerous. They won't give up easily." She pauses, her eyes scanning the room. "I have some supplies you can take with you," she says. "Food, water, and a few weapons." Agnes gathers some supplies and packs them into a bag. She hands the bag to you, her eyes filled with concern. "Be careful," she says. "And good luck." You and Clara thank Agnes again and prepare to leave. As you're about to step out the door, Agnes stops you. "One more thing," she says. "I heard something about a treasure. Blackwood's gold." Your heart sinks. You knew that the gold would come back to haunt you. "It's just a rumor," you say, trying to downplay the situation. "There's no gold." Agnes looks at you skeptically. "Don't lie to me," she says. "I know you found it. And I know where it is." You stare at Agnes, your mind racing. How does she know about the gold? "What do you want?" you ask, your voice guarded. Agnes smiles, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "I want a share," she says. "A small share, just enough to keep me comfortable in my old age." You sigh, your frustration growing. It seems that everyone wants a piece of Blackwood's gold. "All right," you say. "You can have a share, but you have to promise to keep it a secret, and you have to help us get back to Redemption." Agnes nods, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "Deal," she says. "Now, let's get out of here before Blackwood's men come calling." You and Clara follow Agnes out of the cabin and into the night. The wagon is waiting, hitched to a team of sturdy horses. You climb into the wagon, Agnes taking the reins. She cracks the whip, and the horses surge forward, pulling the wagon down the long, winding road. As you ride away from the cabin, you glance back, your heart filled with a sense of unease. You know that you're not safe yet. Blackwood's cronies are still out there, and they're not going to stop until they get their hands on the gold. But you're determined to stay one step ahead. You have a plan, a purpose, and the unwavering support of Clara. And now, you have Agnes, a mysterious old woman who seems to know more than she lets on. The wagon rumbles along the dusty road, the rhythmic clatter of the horses' hooves, a constant soundtrack to your thoughts. Agnes drives with a practiced hand, her eyes scanning the horizon, her senses alert to any sign of danger. You and Clara sit in the back of the wagon, your rifles resting across your laps, your eyes fixed on the passing landscape. You're both exhausted, both emotionally drained, but you know that you can't afford to let your guard down. The road winds through dense forests and across open plains, the scenery changing with each passing mile. You pass abandoned homesteads, dilapidated farmhouses, and forgotten graveyards, each one a silent testament to the harsh realities of frontier life. As the sun begins to rise, painting the sky in hues of pink and orange, you reach a small town. It's a dusty, ramshackle settlement, with a few scattered buildings, a saloon, and a general store. It's not much, but it's a welcome sight after a long and dangerous night. "This is as far as I go," Agnes says, pulling the wagon to a halt in front of the saloon. "The stagecoach comes through here in a few hours. You can catch it to Redemption." You and Clara climb out of the wagon, your bodies stiff and sore. You thank Agnes for her help, offering her a portion of the gold. "Keep it," she says, waving her hand dismissively. "You'll need it more than I do. Just promise me you'll use it wisely." "You promise," and Agnes smiles, a knowing glint in her eyes. She climbs back into the wagon and drives away, disappearing down the dusty road. You and Clara are alone again, standing in the middle of the small town, unsure of what to do next. You decide to go into the saloon to get some food and drink, and to wait for the stagecoach. The saloon is dimly lit and sparsely populated, with a few grizzled cowboys nursing their drinks at the bar. The air is thick with the smell of stale beer and tobacco smoke. You and Clara find a table in the corner and sit down, ordering some coffee and a couple of sandwiches. As you eat, you can't help but feel a sense of unease. You know that Blackwood's men could be anywhere, watching your every move. You scan the saloon, looking for any suspicious characters. You notice a man sitting at the bar, his face hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat. He's been there since you arrived, nursing a single drink, his eyes never leaving you. You nudge Clara, pointing towards the man at the bar. "Do you see him?" you whisper. "He's been watching us." Clara glances at the man, her eyes narrowing. "I don't like the look of him," she says. "He's trouble." You decide to confront the man, to find out what he wants. You stand up and walk towards the bar, your hand resting on your revolver. "Excuse me," you say, your voice firm. "Can I help you with something?" The man slowly turns around, his face coming into view. It's Silas, his shoulder bandaged, his eyes filled with hatred. You say, your voice filled with anger. "What are you doing here?" "I'm here to finish what I started," Silas says, his voice dripping with malice. "I'm here to get the gold." He reaches for his pistol, but you're faster. You draw your revolver and fire, the bullet striking Silas in the chest. Silas gasps and stumbles backward, collapsing to the floor. The other patrons in the saloon stare in shock, their drinks forgotten. You stand over Silas's body, your revolver still smoking. You've killed him. You finally put an end to his treachery, but the fight is far from over. As you turn around, you see that the door to the saloon has been kicked open, and a group of Blackwood's men are standing outside, their weapons drawn. "There he is!" one of them shouts. "Get him!" The men rush into the saloon, firing their weapons. Bullets whiz past you, shattering bottles and splintering wood. You dive for cover, pulling Clara down with you. You huddle behind a table, trying to avoid the gunfire. "We need to get out of here," Clara shouts, her voice breathless. "They've got us surrounded." You know that she's right. You can't stay in the saloon. You need to find a way to escape. You look around frantically, searching for an exit. You see it, a back door leading into an alleyway. "Follow me," you shout, grabbing Clara's hand. "We can get away through the back door." You and Clara dash towards the back door, bullets flying past you. You reach the door and burst out into the alleyway, the sounds of gunfire echoing behind you. The alleyway is narrow and dark, filled with garbage cans and stray cats. You run as fast as you can, your heart pounding in your chest. You know that Blackwood's men are right behind you, hot on your trail. You need to find somewhere to hide, to regroup, and to plan your next move. As you reach the end of the alleyway, you see that it opens onto a busy street. The street is crowded with people, wagons, and horses. You and Clara blend into the crowd, hoping to disappear. You walk quickly, your eyes scanning the faces around you, looking for any sign of danger. You reach the stagecoach station, the place where you're supposed to catch the stagecoach to Redemption. The stagecoach is waiting, its horses hitched and ready to go. You and Clara approach the stagecoach, hoping to board before Blackwood's men find you. But as you get closer, you see that the stagecoach is surrounded by armed men. Blackwood's men. You're trapped. There's no escape. You and Clara exchange glances, your faces grim. You know that this is it. This is the end, but you're not going to give up without a fight. You're going to stand your ground to defend yourselves and to take as many of Blackwood's men with you as possible. You draw your revolvers, your hands steady. You're ready to face whatever comes next. The Wild West is a dangerous place, but you're not afraid. You're a survivor, and you're not going to let Blackwood's men take you down without a fight. The stagecoach bell rings, signaling the start of the journey. But your journey is about to take a detour, a deadly one. The stagecoach driver, a burly man with a weathered face, cracks his whip, and the horses begin to pull forward. You and Clara stand frozen, revolvers drawn, facing down a small army of Blackwood's cronies. The townsfolk, caught in the crossfire, scatter in panic, seeking shelter behind wagons and buildings. The air crackles with tension, the silence broken only by the whinnying of horses and the ragged breathing of the gunmen. You can feel the weight of their eyes on you, their hatred palpable. Jebediah steps forward, his arm in a sling, his face twisted with rage. Well, well, he sneers. Looks like the cat's cornered. It's not over yet, Jebediah, you say, your voice steady, despite the fear gnawing at your insides. It'll be a cold day in hell before I let you get your hands on that gold. Jebediah laughs, a harsh grating sound. You're a fool, he says. There's no way out of this. You're outnumbered, outgunned, and out of time. He raises his pistol, aiming it directly at your head. Say your prayers, he says. But before he can pull the trigger, a shot rings out. Jebediah cries out in pain, dropping his pistol. He clutches at his chest, blood seeping between his fingers. The shot came from the roof of the general store. You look up and see a figure silhouetted against the sky, a rifle in their hands. It's Martha! Get down, she yells, firing another shot. The other gunmen turn their attention to Martha, unleashing a hail of bullets at the roof of the general store. You and Clara seize the opportunity, diving behind the stagecoach for cover. We need to get out of here, Clara shouts, her voice barely audible above the gunfire. They're going to tear this place apart. You nod, your mind racing. You need a plan, and you need it fast. You glance at the stagecoach, its horses still hitched and ready to go. An idea forms in your mind. We're going to use the stagecoach as a shield, you say. We'll drive it through them and then make a run for it. Clara looks at you skeptically. Are you crazy? She says. That's suicide. It's our only chance, you say. Trust me. You and Clara crawl towards the front of the stagecoach, keeping low to avoid the gunfire. You reach the driver's seat and climb inside, grabbing the reins. Hold on tight, you say. This is going to be a bumpy ride. You crack the whip, and the horses surge forward, pulling the stagecoach directly towards Blackwood's men. The gunmen are caught off guard, scattering in panic as the stagecoach barrels towards them. You steer the stagecoach through the crowd, dodging bullets and leaping over obstacles. The horses are wild and frantic, their eyes wide with fear. As you crash through the last of the gunmen, you see a clear path ahead. You steer the stagecoach towards the edge of town, heading for the open plains. We did it, Clara shouts, her voice filled with excitement. We actually did it. But your triumph is short-lived. As you reach the edge of town, you see a group of riders waiting for you, blocking your path. Blackwood's men, they're armed and ready, their faces grim. They're not going to let you escape. You pull back on the reins, bringing the stagecoach to a screeching halt. You and Clara climb out of the stagecoach, your revolvers drawn. You're surrounded. There's no escape. It's over, your name, Jebediah shouts, his voice filled with triumph. You're finished. You look at Clara, her face pale but determined. You know that this is the end. But you're not afraid. You're ready to face whatever comes next. You take a deep breath and raise your revolver, your hand steady. You're gonna go down fighting. Not today, Jebediah, you say, your voice firm. Not today. You fire your revolver, the bullet striking Jebediah in the head. He falls to the ground, dead. The other gunmen open fire, unleashing a hail of bullets at you and Clara. You return fire, taking down as many of them as you can. The battle is fierce and brutal, the air filled with the sounds of gunfire and screams. You and Clara fight side by side, your courage and determination unwavering. But you're outnumbered. You're outgunned. And you're running out of ammunition. One by one, Blackwood's men fall, but more keep coming. You know that it's only a matter of time before you're overwhelmed. Just as you're about to run out of bullets, you hear a familiar sound, The sound of galloping horses approaching from the distance. You look up and see them. A group of riders charging towards you, their faces grim. It's the townspeople of Redemption, led by Martha, Jed, and the old man. They've come to rescue you. Hold on, your name? Martha shouts, her voice ringing across the battlefield. We're here to help. The townspeople charge into the fray, their rifles blazing. They attack Blackwood's men with a ferocity born of desperation and a desire for revenge. The tide of the battle turns. The townspeople, fighting on their home turf, have the advantage. They know the terrain, and they know how to fight. Blackwood's men, caught off guard by the sudden attack, begin to falter. They're outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and outmatched. One by one, they fall, their bodies littering the ground. The remaining gunmen try to retreat into the kitchen, but they find the door locked. They turn to see John Wick standing in the doorway, blocking their escape. Wick calmly reloads his handgun. The gunmen open fire, but Wick effortlessly dodges their shots, returning fire with deadly accuracy. One by one, the gunmen fall until only one remains. Cornered and terrified, Wick approaches him slowly, the click of his gun echoing in the silence. He grabs the last gunman, slams him against the wall, and delivers a final, fatal shot. The kitchen falls silent once more, save for the faint sound of dripping water and John Wick's heavy breathing.